Dad gave the business to my brother-in-law instead of me at his retirement party. Now they're asking me for help after fraud charges. My father retired 2 years ago as the CEO of the lab equipment company he founded. He had assured me for nearly 7 years that I, 30M, would become the next CEO. But on the day of his retirement celebration, he announced that my brother-in-law would be the new CEO. It came as a tremendous surprise to me because I was the one who had planned the party, and I had no idea what was going to happen. I clapped along with everyone else as he delivered the announcement, but then I challenged him. He explained why he let me down. Apparently, my brother-in-law, Zach, 34M, was more of a son to him than I was, as I had disappointed him. Let me tell you that Zach had only been in the business for approximately a year, whereas I had devoted 7 years of my life to it. We had known Zach for a long time, since he and my sister, 33F, had been dating for about 5 years and married for 2. When my father retired, I worked with Zach, and he seemed like a kind guy. Still, I couldn't accept the reality that my father thought Zach was more of a son than I was. When I asked my father to expand on how I had failed him, he answered the most ridiculous thing I could think of, and I lost all respect for him. He explained that it had been a difficult decision, but he had to do what was best for the company. He said that someone as mentally weak as I was could never be a competent leader. That's why he passed me aside in favor of Zach, who he thought had more attributes in common with him. He was alluding to my diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder, which I had mistakenly disclosed to my family a few months before my father retired. One night, while eating dinner with my parents, I accidentally dropped a little container of anti-anxiety medications that had been prescribed to me. I needed to explain everything to them. My mother was cool with it, but my father did not believe in the value of mental health. He thought that being tough was the answer to everything, and when I told him about my nervousness, he began to lose faith in me. I'd like to stress that my anxiety had never harmed the quality of my job, nor had I allowed it to impair my capacity to run the company. I'm sure many people in upper management deal with anxiousness without having it affect their work. But my father told me I had disappointed him by making excuses for my weakness and turning to medications. After much deliberation, he concluded that Zach was the ideal choice to take over the company instead of me. He told me I could quit if I wanted, but he didn't trust me to manage the company the way he did. He refused to give me the reins since I had demonstrated that I was not strong. It wasn't only what he said, it was also that he had encouraged me to assume I would be the next CEO, despite the fact that he had made his decision well before the retirement party. It was quite hurtful. That night, I left the celebration early and never spoke with my father again because he had deeply injured me. At the end of the day, it was his company, and he could hire anybody he believed was the greatest fit. If he felt that my nervousness would get in the way, I had to respect his decision. However, I didn't have to put up with that type of rudeness. So I decided to resign, and within a few weeks I began working elsewhere. My mother was the only family member I kept in touch with. When my sister learned that I was retiring because I was furious that my father had appointed Zach as CEO instead of me, she interpreted it as a personal attack. Instead of attempting to understand where I was coming from, she contacted me to defend my father, and we got into a fight. After that, we stopped speaking. I haven't spoken to my father or sister in 2 years, and I haven't had any touch with Zach. I occasionally speak with my mother to see how she's doing. We try to meet at least once a month, and each time we do, she attempts to persuade me to make amends with my father. But I'm simply not interested. My mother contacted me about a week ago, quite frantic. She informed me that Zach had been arrested for fraudulent actions, notably tax fraud. My father was also under scrutiny because of his former affiliation with the corporation. That upset me, but I had no idea what she expected me to do. She wanted me to speak with my father, smooth things out, and testify for him in court if required, because I had previously worked for the company. I was very clear with my mother that I was not going to get engaged in any way. I was confident that if my father was being examined, all of the company's upper management would be scrutinized as well. If Zach had committed fraud, it was a severe allegation, and I did not want to go into the specifics. All I knew was that the farther I got away from this disaster, the better off I would be. So I made it obvious to my mother that I was not going to stick my neck out for my father. They'd have to deal with it on their own because I didn't want any problems. Besides, if my father genuinely wanted my assistance, he should have approached me directly. He's the one who needs me, so why should I be the one to contact him first? My mother then told me that I was being childish and petty, and that I needed to speak with my father and clear the air since the family needed to keep together during this tough time. I felt she was being ridiculous, so I told her my decision was definite. I was not going to reach out to my father at any cost. She became enraged and accused me of being selfish and uncaring because, even though the family was going through a lot, all I cared about was what happened 2 years before. I thought it was very insensitive of her to say so. If she had been in my situation, she would have felt as betrayed as I did, and she would not have been able to move on as soon. She would not have forgiven my father if she had been passed up for a position for which she had worked hard for nearly 7 years due to circumstances beyond her control. It's unreasonable to ask me to forgive him, especially because my father has never even tried to apologize for what he did to me. I don't think anyone can forgive someone who doesn't apologize in the first place. So my mother and I argued for a time. Eventually, I informed her that this was definitely karma for screwing me over, and that whatever was going on with Zach and my father right now, they deserved it. My mother went silent and eventually hung up. I felt horrible for saying that, so I planned to call her back a few hours later. But then I discovered she'd blocked me. I now feel extremely bad about what I said. Am I an asshole for claiming that my father was definitely suffering retribution for passing me over for the CEO position? Update 1. Hello everybody. My mother blocked me 1 week ago, and I still haven't been able to contact her. I'm trying not to feel guilty about it, but there's really not much I can do. She was the only person who kept in touch with me during the last 2 years, and without her, I feel completely lost and alone. Of course, I have my friends to rely on, and they have all been there for me. But my mother was the one person in my family that looked out for me, and I no longer had her. It's difficult coming to terms with this, and I truly want to contact her. However, I still believe that I have done nothing wrong. I don't think I said anything out of line, and I believe this is karma for booting me out of the firm for something I had no influence over. Yes, I have an anxiety issue, but as I previously stated, it is not crushing. It has no bearing on my leadership skills or ability to work as well as everyone else. It did not make me a disappointment, as my father said. Whether people like it or not, words have meaning. What my father told me on the night of his retirement party has stayed with me for the past 2 years. His unsophisticated approach about mental health and its relevance severely harmed my self-esteem for several months. I continued doubting myself and questioning every decision I had made up to that moment. I felt like an imposter in my new work. It took a long time to get over that, and I'm still in treatment dealing with unresolved issues. However, my anxiousness has never impaired my capacity to work. In fact, I am one of the greatest employees at my current job, as my managers often tell me. They're even going to promote me soon. I genuinely believe my father made a significant mistake, and it is not my responsibility if my mother does not recognize this. It just sucks that she's choosing to side with him instead of telling him to fuck up and apologize to me. I don't understand why she believes I should make amends first. One thing is certain, I won't do anything for the family until they apologize for everything. And they must say it with sincerity. I refuse to be used again for selfish gain. Update 2. My sister stopped by to see me today, and it was stressful since she was emotional. She wants me to help her because her husband is in serious jeopardy, but I'm not sure what they expect me to do. My hands are tied here. This is a federal felony, and I don't think I can help them. She appeared to be in a bad situation, so I let her in. I tried to be as kind to her as possible because I am not a heartless person. I can't just slam the door when someone is in so much pain. She started crying on my shoulder, telling me she had no idea what was going on, and that if she had known, she would have stopped it right away. She's quite concerned about what will happen to him, and she wants me to use my connections to help him out. I informed her that, unfortunately, I do not have any such ties that would be relevant here. Then she stated that our father had told us that one of my employers at the company where I presently work is married to a federal judge, and they were hoping I could speak with him and help them. She even suggested that they were willing to pay whatever it needed, but they simply wanted me to put them in touch with my employer and, by extension, his wife. I thought it was rather out of line for her to ask, let alone expect me to do it. I immediately answered no, telling her that I would prefer it if she left me alone. I assumed she had come for emotional support, but this was not something I was going to promote or even discuss. I had several reasons for saying no, the primary one being that I did not want to bring this up with my supervisors and link myself with a family of fraudsters. More significantly, I follow a personal code of morality and ethics. While I don't want anything bad to happen to my sister, if Zach had committed tax fraud, I didn't want to get involved in a situation where I was attempting to aid him or influence the issue in his favor. At this time, it wasn't personal against him. I simply didn't want to become engaged. The most I could give them was emotional support, but for me to go to such lengths was ridiculous. When I said no and asked her to leave, my sister sulked and said she couldn't believe I was still angry at her husband for something that wasn't even his fault. I attempted to clarify that this was not about that. In fact, I had never truly blamed him for what happened to my father. My father decided to give him the position instead of me and allow him to take over the company. If I were in his shoes, I would probably have accepted the post without considering who genuinely deserved it. Maybe I despised him slightly, but I didn't bear a grudge. He just wasn't important enough for that. I tried to inform my sister, but she refused to listen, insisting that our mother had been correct. There was no sense in talking to me because I was still petty and selfish. We ended up fighting again, and I told her to leave my home. She couldn't just walk in and disrespect me after everything had happened, especially after I'd tried to console her, even if she never showed me the same courtesy when I was going through a difficult period. In fact, she argued with me back then because she saw it as a personal attack. She continued to do the same thing 2 years later. So if anyone was acting petty and selfishly, it was my family. Her remark about our mother being correct made me feel bad because, for the past 2 years, my mother had been the only person there for me. Now it felt as if she hadn't been there for me at all, and everything was all for show. I was already deeply offended, and my sister refused to leave. She remained standing there, uttering one nasty thing after another. It soon got to the point where both of us were yelling so loudly at each other that I couldn't hear what she was saying. We ended up yelling at each other before she finally left. I feel terrible about everything that is going on, but at the same time, I believe they deserve what is coming to them. I believe they deserve every negative thing that happens to them. I honestly believe that maintaining in touch with my mother during the last 2 years was a major mistake, and that I should have broken off my entire family when I had the opportunity. Even now, I regret wanting to be there for my sister when she was behaving crazy. They are clearly no longer deserving of my time or attention, as evidenced by their repeated demonstrations. But for some reason, I find it really difficult to completely remove them from my life totally. I keep thinking about our youth, how close we were, and it pains me to talk about it today. All of this is absolutely terrible. I wish it was all over soon. Update 3. It's been 4 days since my sister visited and we got into that argument. No one spoke to me for the following 4 days. I nearly thought they were going to leave me alone now. But today, my parents arrived, and this time I was determined not to let them in. I had already made the mistake of letting my sister in the previous time, and we all know how that went. I wasn't about to repeat my mistake. They were standing outside the door, and I ordered them to leave since I didn't think there was anything more to talk about. They couldn't possibly have anything new to say that hadn't previously been stated, so we could save each other's time and leave it at that. But my father stated he wasn't coming to ask for help. He truly came to apologize. He explained to me that after a long time, he understood he had done the wrong thing. He said that he had made the biggest mistake imaginable and that nothing he said would make it right. But the least he could do was talk to me and apologize for everything. I have to tell you, that actually surprised me since I was expecting him to walk up and start yelling at me or something. We hadn't spoken since the night of his retirement party, and I still remember him calling me a disappointment. I doubt I'll ever forget that. It was all I could think about while he apologized. When he was finished, I told him I was grateful that he had come all the way here to apologize, but it was difficult for me to forgive him. He couldn't just apologize and expect everything to be good, especially after 2 years of no communication and no effort on his part to contact me. I told him I needed time, and even then, I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to forgive him. It wasn't even the fact that he had screwed me over 2 years ago that worried me today, but rather the fact that it took him 2 years and so much hardship to realize he had done the wrong thing and eventually come and talk to me. That's what made me so sad. Even after that, I was expecting him to get angry and start yelling, but he simply stated that he was willing to wait for me to come around. He stated he'd be fine with it even if I never spoke to him again or forgive him. He admits that 2 years ago he made a poor decision. He didn't take my mental health lightly. He simply went too far. He added that in his family, all guys were raised to be rough. They thought that getting through life meant struggling through everything. Anyone who claimed to be anxious or depressed was perceived as weak and making excuses for oneself. When he learned I was using anti-anxiety medication, he began to doubt my ability to lead the company. He had started the business from beginning and couldn't afford to let it fail. His dread and paranoia got the best of him, and he made the worst option possible, which led to our current position. After we stopped talking, he revealed he was angry at me and had resented me for a few months. But then he started second-guessing himself, researching more about anxiety and its mechanisms. A few months ago, he began to suspect that he could be experiencing some symptoms and intended to contact me to resolve the situation. However, the entire episode with Zach came to light, and he was unable to do so. When my father finished describing everything, I felt weird about the scenario. I'm still not sure how I feel about it all, but at least he apologized. It may seem insignificant after 2 years, but it means a great deal to me. I don't know if I'll forgive him anytime soon, and I'm not sure if his apology was real, but I'm prepared to think about it and give it a try. For the time being, I told him to go home and that I would call him if I felt the need. He acknowledged that and departed. My mom and I didn't get to communicate much today. At first, she apologized to me, as did my father. Toward the end of our conversation, she expressed her willingness to wait for my forgiveness. She recognized that she had reacted too fast and rudely, rather than attempting to comprehend what I was going through. She also indicated that she had spoken with my sister, who wanted to repent for previously mistreating me. However, I don't consider that a true apology. My sister is an adult who can speak for herself. If she wants to apologize, she'll have to do so herself. I understand she is struggling with everything Zach related right now, but there is no justification for how she behaved the last time she visited. Anyway, most of my family members have apologized to me and it is now up to me to determine whether or not to accept their apologies. I won't lie, it will be a difficult decision to make. I've gone 2 years without speaking to any of these individuals, with the exception of my mother, and even she's having some difficulties right now. On the one hand, I want to forgive everyone and move on with my life since I don't believe animosity would help me go on. If I don't forgive them, these ideas will continue to haunt me, as they have for the past few years, and I don't want that. On the other hand, I'm not sure if forgiving them and leaving things in the past is the proper thing to do. I'm just perplexed on what to do right now. If I'm honest, I miss my family tremendously, and everything is messing with my mind. I understand that some of you may believe they are only doing this because they are in problems right now, but I've already stated unequivocally that I cannot help them. Even if I could, I wouldn't. It's a matter of principle for me, and I'm not about to change it for anyone. So if they are hoping for my assistance, they have already set themselves up for disappointment. However, if that is not on their thoughts and they are truly attempting to repent and restore our broken connections, it complicates matters even further. I guess I'll sleep on it for a few days and consider what I want to do. I'll keep you all updated. Update 4. Hello everyone, it has been 4 months since I last checked in here. I got incredibly busy in the meantime, which I'll explain later. Anyway, in my last report I said that my dad and sister both apologized to me. My parents did this in person, but my sister, who was preoccupied with Zach's condition, asked my mother to apologize on her behalf. A few weeks later, my sister came to see me in person and apologized. I told her the same thing I told my parents. I'd think about it and let her know. I thought about it. I took my time, and last month I informed them I wanted to restore our friendship, but at my own pace. I said I'd be willing to eat dinner with them once a month and see where it goes because I'm still unsure whether mending our friendship is a good idea. They were ecstatic and stated it was fine as long as I was happy. So that is where we are currently. We ate supper together a few weeks ago. It was embarrassing enough, but I could see they were genuinely attempting to make amends for the past by being especially friendly to me. Zach was not at the dinner because my sister filed for divorce 2 months ago and he had already been dismissed from his job. My father offered to make me the CEO, but I declined. I suppose I need more time. My father is currently handling things at the company, and he is still waiting for a response from me. I will think about it for a few more months and make a decision later, but I may accept. For the time being, I'm simply trying to focus on what I enjoy doing, which includes spending time with my girlfriend. She's an old acquaintance of mine, and we began dating a few months ago. That's what's kept me so busy lately. My life now includes more than just job and family problems. In reality, she was the one who persuaded me to forgive my family and give them another chance. I'm so glad we're together. I had liked her for a long time but had never asked her out since I did not want to jeopardize our friendship. I am delighted she took the first step. Now that we're together, and I'm as happy as I can be, things are looking up for me. My stepdaughter helped my husband hide his affair, so I took her college fund. Now they're begging me to forgive them. Hello Reddit. I need your aid right now since I'm in a difficult situation with my stepdaughter and don't know what to do. For reference, I, 42F, have spent 15 years with my soon-to-be ex-husband David, 44M. We've been married for 10 of those 15 years, and I loved him more than anybody else in the world. He has a daughter, Stacy, 17F, from a prior relationship. He and Stacy's mother were never married. They had a brief fling for a few months, but she became pregnant and opted to keep the baby. They'd split up just a few weeks before she discovered she was pregnant. They chose to maintain a friendly relationship so that they could co-parent the baby. Unfortunately, Stacy's mother died in a vehicle accident when Stacy was only 6 months old, leaving only David and his daughter. He informed me at the start of our relationship that he wasn't just searching for a wife, but also someone who would be a wonderful mother to Stacy. I was willing to do it since I adored children, and Stacy was only 2 at the time. I honestly didn't mind that he had a daughter. I was prepared to accept her as my own and raise her accordingly. I took our relationship extremely seriously from the start. After 5 years together, we decided to marry. Our relationship had ups and downs, but at the end of the day I believed he loved me as much as I loved him. I had no cause to suspect he might be cheating on me. Even a few months ago, we were discussing commemorating our 10th wedding anniversary with a family trip to some exotic location, and he was really pleased about it. People who cheat on their wives don't seem to be enthused about a family trip, so I didn't expect this. I discovered 6 days ago that he had been cheating on me with a coworker for the past 7 months. I was at work, minding my own business, when I received an email from a coworker. It contained all of the specifics of their affair. She even supplied documentation of text exchanges, phone calls, and images of them together at locations on days when he claimed he was abroad on business, but those excursions were actually romantic getaways with her, which I had known about. I was stunned when I received the email. I instantly went home, unsure what else to do. Nobody was home at the time because Stacy was out with a friend and David was working. So I examined those emails carefully again because I didn't want to have a breakdown at work. I noticed she had also included her phone number in case I wished to call her. She explained that she was doing this because she knew David would never tell me, and she believed I deserved to know the truth. David had apparently been promising her for the last 6 months that he would tell me the truth and discontinue our relationship since she was uncomfortable having an affair with a married guy. I think her conscience had kicked in, or something, but David kept promising to tell me. I even saw screenshots of him indicating he was ending our marriage to be with her. She had initially believed him, but after nearly 3 months of waiting, she decided to inform me herself. After reading that email, I reflected on it for a time before calling her because the worst had already happened. I was still in denial, so I figured speaking with her would help me realize this wasn't a cruel prank. It was actually happening. When I spoke with her, she began by apologizing and explaining that she had no intention of hurting my marriage and had simply fallen in love with David. That was why she believed I deserved to know the truth. She went on to detail how the affair began, how long it had lasted, and all of the promises he had made to her, which were identical to those he had made to me at the outset of our relationship. My heart broke with each word she whispered to me. By the end of the conversation, I was certain there could be nothing more painful. But then she revealed that Stacy had been aware of everything and had been assisting him in concealing his activities. That really destroyed me since, in my opinion, I had always been Stacy's mom. I never thought of her as a stepdaughter. I had known that girl since she was 2 years old and raised her as my own. So the fact that she had also deceived me felt like the end of the world. His coworker informed me that whenever David needed to lie to me or cover up something, Stacy would make excuses for his absence and explain why he wasn't returning my calls. In exchange for her silence, he offered her expensive gifts. That explained a lot of recent events. David had been completely indulging her, which had never happened before, but I assumed he was doing well at work, so he was buying her lovely stuff. He had also bought me a lot of jewelry and clothes, so I assumed his new practice of giving us presents was due to his success at business, but apparently not. Knowing Stacy had been a part of this and had met her father's affair partner multiple times while keeping it a secret from me devastated my heart much more than realizing David had been cheating on me. After that phone call, I decided to pack my belongings and leave the house since I did not want to be there any longer, waiting for the two of them to return home. I felt terribly betrayed and could not stop crying. I didn't want David to have the satisfaction of seeing me like that, so I packed a few items and drove to a motel outside of town. I shut off my phone since I did not want to be called. I was upset that day and ended up drinking myself to sleep in my hotel room. The next morning, I had to switch my phone back on to report ill to work. That's when I discovered I had 1,000 unanswered texts and missed calls from David and Stacy, and I didn't want to respond to any of them. I also noticed a text message from a person at the auto dealership with whom I had been discussing purchasing a new vehicle. I had been putting off making the purchase since I wanted to save more money before buying it, which was pricey. I had also been saving for our anniversary trip and Stacy's 17th birthday, intending to give her a new automobile rather than buying one for myself. When I got that SMS, I remembered how I had planned to gift Stacy a car for her birthday, which made me angry. In a fit of rage, I decided to concentrate on making myself happy without regard for anyone else. The guy from the dealership had inquired if I was still intending on buying the car, and on a whim, I went down to the dealership and purchased a sparkling new luxury car. I hadn't planned to buy it because it was well out of my price range, but I didn't have to worry about it. Since I married David 10 years ago, I've been saving for Stacy's college education. I had intended to offer her access to that account as a surprise when she announced which college she would be attending. But now that I knew what had been going on for the past few months, I didn't want to surprise anyone except myself. I took money from that account to buy the fancy car, which I then drove to our house to face David and Stacy. When I arrived, they attempted to hug me and tell me how worried they were, but I didn't let them. I instantly revealed that David's coworker had contacted me, and I now knew the whole extent of what had been going on behind my back. I was quite unhappy with both of them. They both looked shocked. David, at least, had the foresight not to say anything because he knew the game was up. Stacy tried to speak with me, stating she was only trying to look out for her father and didn't know what to do. She burst into tears, claiming she was confused because she loved us both equally and wanted us to be happy, but I didn't believe her. I assumed she was mature enough to understand what was good and wrong, and she purposefully chose to do the opposite. Furthermore, I'm very sure the presents she was receiving from her father helped her keep quiet about the whole affair. I told her I didn't believe a word she was saying. I was so furious off and upset that I announced my departure from David. He should have seen it coming, because I doubt anyone in my position would have stayed after learning something like this. I informed Stacy that, more than David, I was disappointed in her. Husbands cheat all the time, and this isn't the first or last time a woman will experience it. But I'd always expected Stacy to have my back. Despite the fact that we were not blood relatives, I had never considered her to be my stepdaughter. I had loved her as much as my own, if not more. Her deception and betrayal affected me more than anything her father did. So I determined that the education fund I had been saving for her over the years was no longer something she deserved. I was leaving them both behind. It was difficult for me to say that, and I almost cried up because this had been my family for the last 15 years. But after telling her, I walked out without giving them the opportunity to explain and returned to the hotel. They kept phoning, but I refused to stop. They even followed me out, and I'm fairly certain they saw the new automobile I purchased. I drove away as fast as I could. After that, I wanted to block them, but I couldn't since I was still emotionally processing everything. They've been attempting to contact me for the past 5 days, texting virtually every hour and calling me, but I'm at a loss for words. So I just read all of their messages and left it at that. David had been trying to persuade me to forgive him for the first several days, but when he saw it was fruitless, he began apologizing and admitting that I deserved better. However, he began pleading with me to reconsider what I was doing to Stacy, stating she was only a child and did not deserve to suffer as a result of his acts. Stacy has also texted me along the same lines, confessing her mistake and requesting a second chance. She says she has always thought of me as her mother and is deeply sorry for everything. I had been ignoring everything, but yesterday I received a text from David saying he was tired of apologizing without getting a response. He demanded to know if I had any intention of returning to the family. That irritated me because he was the one who made a mistake, and he had no right to be angry with me. I instantly texted him back, claiming that I had already spoken with a lawyer and filed for divorce, which was false. I was still processing things and hadn't had the opportunity to consult with a lawyer yet, but he didn't need to know that. He didn't respond for about an hour, and when he did, he sent me a lengthy message accusing me of being selfish and the villain for responding in this manner. He stated he was fine with me filing for divorce and leaving him, but the fact that I chose to leave Stacy behind demonstrated how selfish I was. He told me that Stacy had been upset since I left, and that my unwillingness to allow her access to the college monies I had been accumulating for her had hurt her very hard. He was aware of the college fund, but had not bothered to save enough money for her tuition because he trusted me to handle it. I remember mentioning the college fund to him countless times. He knew I had been saving cash to surprise Stacy, but I had no idea he had not saved anything for her school. Now that Stacy is considering going to college out of state, which would be even more expensive, it's unclear whether she will be able to attend her preferred college. David believes I am the evil guy for taking away the college fund and shoving it in her face. He doesn't understand why I won't let her have access to the money since I've always planned to give it to her. To him, it appears like I am using this one error to be selfish, especially since he saw my new automobile. He believes I should reconsider. Now I am torn on what to do. According to his words, I don't feel comfortable taking things away from a child only to teach them a lesson or punish them. I've never been that type of parent and I don't want to start now. However, Stacy is not quite a child. She realized what she was doing was wrong. I do not know. I feel like she's terribly disappointed me and perhaps what I'm doing isn't that bad. I'm just really perplexed. Is it wrong of me to tell my stepdaughter that I would no longer fund her college tuition after discovering she helped my husband cover up his affair? Update 1. Hello, I apologize for not being able to provide you with an update during the last 2 weeks. It was only that I had been quite busy with job and dealing with my lawyer, so there was a lot on my plate. But now I've got some time. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who commented on my initial article and gave me so much love and support. I am grateful from the bottom of my heart. Knowing that there were people who supported me, even if they were complete strangers, made things much simpler to live with. So when David texted me and I posted, I felt I didn't need to entertain any of it. Most of the comments on my article stated the same thing. I needed to block him and file for divorce as soon as possible so I could finally get him out of my life. And this is exactly what I did. Within the next several days I had consulted with a lawyer and filed for divorce. I also concluded I didn't owe Stacy anything. Even if I were her biological parent, I would not have given her money to go her dream college. She should have considered these things before assisting her father in cheating on me. You cannot stab me in the back and expect me to turn around and grin. I'm sorry, but it doesn't matter how old or who you are. That's simply not how this works. David's allegation that Stacy was being punished for what he did was incorrect. She was being punished for what she had done, and I made it abundantly obvious when I last met with them in person. I declined to give her the college fund since she opted not to inform me about her father's infidelity. That is the reason, and I believe I'm being fair. If they want to be angry about it, they are free to do so, but I will not tolerate it, which is why I blocked them. They now have absolutely no access to me. They are still attempting to reach me by calling from different numbers, messaging from new numbers, and emailing me from fictitious addresses. It doesn't matter, because all I do is read the texts and emails while ignoring everything else. Update 2. I eventually found out what was going to happen with the divorce, and happily, David is not opposing anything. I hope we can have a calm and amicable divorce. It's been about 3 weeks since I discovered he was cheating on me, and my life has drastically changed. I had been living at a motel until last week, but it was becoming too expensive. Even though I had enough money to remain for a few more weeks or months, I opted not to waste it. So I moved in with a buddy, who has graciously allowed me to stay until I can get my own apartment. I've also begun to contemplate therapy for myself after a buddy, who is a licensed professional, told me it would benefit me in the long term. I am thinking about it. Perhaps the most significant change was that I quit my job. It is a tremendous issue because I have been working non-stop for almost 20 years. I began working immediately after graduating from college, and I had previously worked part-time. But I believe I need a break right now. I've accumulated enough money over the last 10 years to take a few months off, reorganize my life and launch my own business. That had always been the plan, but I decided to put it off until Stacy left for college so I wouldn't have to worry about money. Now that no one is holding me back, I can do whatever I want. So there's the plan. I'm going to spend these months developing a business model, looking for investors, and all that jazz. I'm actually looking forward to the future, even though I'm still sad about everything that has happened. I have also spoken with my parents about the divorce. I hadn't told them previously since I was still processing everything, but after speaking with them, I posted an announcement on social media. I did not explain why, I simply stated that I was getting divorced. My close friends and family are already aware of what is going on, and they are the only people I care about, so what others say is irrelevant. Life has been complicated for the past few weeks, but now that the divorce proceedings have begun and we will meet with a mediator in the coming days, I'm hoping to be able to put this behind me and finally move on. Update 3. Hello, David and I are planning to meet with the mediator tomorrow. It's strange knowing that I'll have to face him after nearly a month of no communication. As if I wasn't apprehensive and concerned enough before the meeting, Stacy sent me an email only half an hour ago. She stopped contacting me after 2.5 weeks, and I assumed she was no longer interested in chatting with me. I assumed this email was about how she intended to pay for her college fees, but to my amazement, she texted me a thorough apology, and this time it appeared sincere. She didn't say anything about the finances. Stacy stated she was really sorry for what she had done, confessing she had been selfish and hadn't considered how I would feel if I found out the truth. She realized she had crushed my heart much more than David had and wondered if she would ever be able to put things right with me. She did, however, mean it when she stated she had always looked up to me as a mother and truly loved me. She also stated that she was aware that David's presents were manipulative and that his affair partner had made it appear as if she was doing it on her own. However, she argued that it was due to manipulation rather than a desire to keep secrets from me. I'm not sure what to trust. Maybe she was manipulated, which is why she didn't say anything. She insisted on being confused, caught between knowing her father was wrong but not wanting to oppose him. In doing so, she betrayed me and had been conflicted for months. I want to believe her, I truly do, but with everything that has transpired, I'm simply not sure. I was already uneasy and twitchy, but after receiving the email, I feel much strange about everything. I miss her dearly, as I do David, but I know I need to learn how to live life on my own. I've learned the hard way that I can't simply trust people, even my closest ones. I guess I'll have to stick to the no contact rule for now. I also acquired a new apartment and moved in. I've been living by myself for the past few weeks, and it's been enjoyable. My friends and relatives pay me visits almost every other day to check on my well-being, which I believe is quite nice of them. I don't feel lonely because I'm usually with someone. However, I know these visits will not be as regular as they are today. I'm still working on accepting the idea that I'm a single lady. I've also started treatment. It will take some time for me to absorb and process everything that has transpired, but I am confident I will get there. I haven't communicated with David since our last mediation session, and while it hasn't been easy, it has been essential. In my last report, I mentioned Stacy's email in which she claimed to have been influenced. At the time, I couldn't bring myself to trust her because everything was so new. But just last week, I decided to respond to her email. She had been sending me additional emails about her life. It felt like a one-way street. She'd keep reaching out, and I'd shut her out. But every time she emailed me, my heart would shatter and I'd cry, even if nothing bad was occurring in her life. I genuinely missed her. So I contacted her and told her I missed her. There's nothing else. I still maintain that she will not receive the college fund, but she stated that she didn't mind and didn't deserve it anyhow. She informed me she chose a college close to home over her chosen school because she did not want to burden her father with student loans. Even if she had asked him to co-sign, he would have refused. He had made that obvious. Stacy noted that they will have to make do with the money they have, and that while David will assist as much as he can, she will also need to contribute by earning her way through college. She stated she was cool with it, or so she claimed. We've been emailing back and forth, and I informed her that I'd like to repair our friendship, but I need time. After everything that has transpired, I simply cannot digest it all right now. She understands and tells me to take as much time as I need, knowing she has abused my confidence. I'm not sure what will happen next, but I'm hoping for the best. Fingers crossed. My spiteful sister-in-law accused me of stealing her diamond ring, but when this was revealed, she wasn't ready for the shock. I, 29F, have been married to Shane, 31M, for 5 years. We have a solid connection and a comfortable lifestyle. Shane has a sister, Tori, 33, who has been married to Mike, 35, for 8 years. Tori and I never really got along. Tori appeared to dislike me ever since Shane introduced me to his family. At first, I assumed it was simply because she was protective of her brother, but as time passed, I understood there was more to it. I was raised in a middle-class family. My parents worked hard to support me and my siblings. We never had luxuries, but we always had what we needed. I went to college on scholarships and worked part-time jobs to cover my expenditures. Following college, I took a job at a technology company and worked my way up. Tori, on the other hand, hailed from an affluent household. She never had to worry about money and received everything she desired. She attended an expensive private college before marrying Mike, who was also from a wealthy background. Tori didn't work and spent her time shopping, visiting spas, and attending social gatherings. When Shane and I began dating, Tori made it apparent that she did not think I was suitable for her brother. She'd make snarky remarks about my clothing, employment, and background. Despite the fact that Shane was seeing me, she was constantly trying to match him up with her wealthy friends. Despite Tori's attitude, Shane and I married. Our wedding was simple yet gorgeous. We paid for it ourselves and held a small ceremony for close friends and relatives. Tori complained about everything at the wedding, including the food and decor. She even donned a white outfit, which I chose to overlook to avoid the controversy. Shane's career skyrocketed following our marriage. He was promoted numerous times and began earning a decent salary. We were able to buy a wonderful home and go on vacation. This seemed to aggravate Tori's jealousy. She was constantly comparing our life to hers, always attempting to outdo us. Last month, Shane's parents invited the entire family to spend the weekend at their lake house. I didn't want to go because of Tori, but Shane persuaded me that it would be beneficial for family bonding. The first day went fine. We all arrived on Friday evening and dined together. Tori rarely spoke to me, which was okay with me. On Saturday morning, we had a swim in the lake. After lunch, Tori recommended we all play board games. Tori continued to show off her beautiful diamond ring while we were playing. She made a great deal about how pricey it was and how her father had surprised her with it on their anniversary. I complimented the ring politely, but Tori simply rolled her eyes. Later that afternoon, I decided to have a nap. I was fatigued after driving and swimming. I walked to the guest room Shane and I stayed in and fell asleep. I awoke about an hour later to shouting. I walked downstairs and discovered Tori screaming and crying. She yelled that her diamond ring was missing. Everyone was attempting to calm her down and help her find it. Tori was turning the living room upside down, tossing cushions and peering beneath furniture. Tori then pointed at me and cried that I had taken her ring. She claimed I was envious of her ring and wanted it for myself. I was astonished and rejected it right away. Shane defended me, stating that I would never do such a thing. Tori stated that I was the only one who had been alone in the house while everyone else went outdoors. She insisted that I empty my pockets and show her my baggage. I felt ashamed, but I did everything she wanted to establish my innocence. The ring was not present, but Tori was dissatisfied. To my dismay, Mike chimed in and accused me of hiding the ring somewhere. He stated I must have done it out of envy and recommended we check our room. I could not believe what was happening. I looked to Shane's parents for help, but they were apprehensive. Shane's father suggested that we all search the house thoroughly. We looked everywhere for hours and couldn't find the ring. As time passed, I noticed uncertainty creeping into everyone's eyes. Even Shane's mother, who had always been friendly to me, gave me skeptical looks. By dinner time, the mood was terrible. Tori was still crying, and Mike was soothing her while staring at me. Shane's cousins were whispering amongst themselves, and I could sense their accusing eyes. The breaking point came when Shane's father pulled him aside. I overheard him instructing Shane to man up and make me return the ring or pay for it. He claimed the ring was worth hundreds of dollars and Tori was upset. Shane lost his temper. He yelled at his father, stating he couldn't believe his own family would accuse him without evidence. He exclaimed that I was innocent and Tori had probably misplaced the ring. This resulted in a heated argument, with everyone taking sides. I felt terrible. I couldn't believe what was occurring. My husband's family treated me like a criminal even though I had never stolen anything in my life. Shane grabbed my hand in the middle of our quarrel and told me we were leaving. He informed his family that he was upset with them for leaping to conclusions and mistreating me. We packed our stuff quickly and went, despite his parents' objections. Shane was seething as he drove home. He repeatedly apologized to me, claiming he couldn't believe his family would do this. I was astonished and didn't know what to say. I felt bad for fostering this schism in Shane's family, even though I knew I had done nothing wrong. When we arrived home, Shane's phone was swamped with messages from his relatives. Tori demanded we pay for the ring. Mike had sent me a lengthy text accusing me of wrecking their lives via jealousy. Shane's parents asked him to be reasonable and return to work things out. Shane blocked all of their numbers that night. He said he didn't want to speak with any of them until they apologized to me, but I could tell how much this was hurting him. He adored his family, and this split was tearing him apart. A week has gone by, but the situation has not improved. Tori has been posting on social media about how I took her valuable anniversary gift. Some of Shane's extended family members have contacted us, encouraging us to do the right thing and pay for the ring to maintain peace. I am at a loss. I know I didn't take the ring, but I can't prove it. Shane trusts me, but I can see the toll it is having on him. He has lost weight and is not sleeping properly. He's even thinking about changing careers so we can relocate to another place and escape all of this stress. Part of me wonders if we should just pay for the ring to put this all behind us, but it's a lot of money, and more importantly, it would be admitting to something I didn't do. I'm afraid if we give in now, Tori will keep this over my head forever. I never wanted to come between Shane and his family. Regardless of our differences, I hoped Tori and I would eventually get along. Now it appears that will never happen. I do not know what to do. Should I maintain my innocence, even if it means Shane loses his family? Should we pay for the ring to maintain peace? How can I prove I didn't steal something when there is no evidence either way? This entire affair has been a nightmare. I've lost sleep, can't concentrate at work, and am constantly anxious. Shane swears he'll always support me, but I can tell this is causing him pain as well. So Reddit, should I admit to stealing a ring that I did not take or pay for? How would you handle my situation? How can I resolve this situation without jeopardizing my integrity? Update. It's been 3 months since my previous post, and a lot has happened. I never anticipated things to turn out the way they did, but I'm glad the truth is now out. 2 weeks after the incident at the lake house, Leah, Shane's cousin, called me. She stated that she had some information about Tori's missing ring and wanted to meet me in person. I was hesitant at first, but Leah argued that it was necessary. The following day, we met in a small cafe. Leah appeared anxious and kept looking around, as if she was frightened someone would overhear us. She informed me that she had heard something unexpected from Angela, Ethan's girlfriend. Ethan was Mike's best friend. Angela told Leia that Mike had removed Tori's ring. Mike and Ethan had apparently entered into a business deal with a loan shark. They borrowed a significant quantity of money, but instead of investing it, they used it all to gamble and party in Las Vegas. When it came time to repay the debt, they were broke. In desperation, Mike took Tori's ring and sold it to help pay off the debt. He then used the family gathering to stage the ring's disappearance and blamed me. I was stunned. I couldn't believe what I heard. Part of me was happy that I wasn't insane and hadn't taken the ring, but another part of me was angry and upset that Mike would do this to his own wife and then blame me for it. Leia stated that she did not know what to do with this information. She felt bad for keeping it a secret, but she was frightened of causing additional family problems. I thanked her for informing me and told her that I would handle it responsibly. When I arrived home, I told Shane exactly what Leia had said. At first, he was skeptical. He couldn't believe his brother-in-law would do anything like this, but as we discussed it, things began to make sense. We remembered Mike's uneasy demeanor throughout the ring incident and how quick he was to accuse me. Shane decided to do some digging. He began by contacting some of Mike's old college pals and discovered that Mike had a gambling history that he had kept hidden from his family. Mike's acquaintances reported that he had recently been in financial problems. Then Shane hired a private detective. It took some time, but the PI eventually tracked down the loan shark from whom Mike had borrowed money. The man acknowledged that Mike and Ethan had taken out a loan and had recently made a partial repayment with a diamond ring. Shane was infuriated. He wanted to face Mike right away, but I advised him to acquire additional proof first. We didn't want this to become another situation in which our word was against theirs. Shane labored tirelessly for weeks to develop a case. He obtained bank statements that showed big transactions from Mike and Tori's joint account around the time of their Las Vegas trip. He discovered credit card statements containing charges from casinos. He even obtained security camera footage from a pawn shop showing Mike selling the ring. Shane convened a family meeting after we had collected all of the evidence. He assured everyone that they were going to talk about the ring issue and try to move ahead as a family. Tori and Mike consented, possibly believing it was an opportunity for me to finally confess. I was quite nervous on the day of the meeting. Shane's parents hosted it in their home. When we arrived, everyone was already present. Tori gave me a chilly glance, while Mike avoided eye contact entirely. Shane began by thanking everyone for coming. He stated that the ring event had created a great deal of pain in the family, and it was time to clear the air. Then he dropped the bombshell. He knew exactly what had happened to the ring. The room became silent. Tori looked perplexed, as Mike turned pale. Shane then proceeded to put forth all of the evidence we had collected. He handed them the bank statements, credit card bills, and pawn shop film. He even had Ethan on speakerphone and reluctantly corroborated the entire tale. As Shane spoke, the expressions on everyone's faces changed: shock, astonishment, and finally rage. Tori fell into tears and asked Mike if it was true. Mike broke down and confessed everything. He said he never intended for things to get this far, and he was going to find a way to get the ring returned. Tori was devastated. She couldn't believe Mike stole her ring and then blamed an innocent person. Shane's parents were surprised and ashamed. They apologized profusely for questioning me. Mike left the house in humiliation after the encounter, while Tori remained behind, too unhappy to join him. Shane's father hugged me and apologized for telling Shane to make me pay for the ring. Shane's mother was in tears, begging for my forgiveness. In the days that followed, I got calls and texts from several family members. They all apologized for believing I was capable of stealing and for treating me poorly. Some others brought flowers or gift baskets as peace gestures. Tori called me a week after our meeting. She apologized for blaming me and for all of the hurtful things she had said and done over the years. She revealed that she was always envious of me and my friendship with Shane. She announced that she was seeking for divorce from Mike and asked if we could start afresh. I was cautious at first, but I could detect genuine guilt in her voice. I told her I forgive her, but it would take time to regain trust. She understood and expressed her willingness to put in the effort. Mike moved out of their home and into a modest apartment. When his boss discovered the gambling and loan sharking, he was fired. Last I heard, he was going to Gamblers Anonymous sessions and trying to change his life. Shane and I had lengthy discussions about all that had happened. He felt bad about not believing in me more passionately from the start. I informed him that I realized how terrible the situation had been and that I valued his assistance throughout. We also talked about how we would handle our relationship with his family going ahead. We decided that while we would attempt to preserve positive ties, we would be more cautious about becoming involved in family issues in the future. The entire event drew Shane and I closer together. We discovered how strong our friendship was and how we could count on each other even when others doubted us. It also made us understand the value of trust and honesty in a partnership. Tori stuck to her word about trying to better our friendship. She began inviting me for coffee or lunch, just the two of us. At first, our chats were awkward and stiff, but we eventually discovered common ground. She spoke openly about her vulnerabilities and the pressure she faced growing up in a rich family. I told anecdotes of my own challenges and how I started my career from nothing. Things gradually began to shift. Tori stopped making nasty remarks at family events or attempting to outdo me. Instead, she was nice and even defended me when some of my more distant relatives mentioned the ring incident. Shane's parents went out of their way to make me feel comfortable and included. They would frequently call to check on me and ask us over for dinner. Shane's father even sought my guidance on some business things, claiming he valued my opinion. The ring was never recovered. We found out the facts after the loan shark had already sold it. Tori was disappointed at losing her father's present, but she claimed the event taught her that worldly possessions were less essential than trust and family. Leah, the cousin who initially informed me of Mike's conduct, became a good friend. She expressed admiration for how I handled the problem and wished she had been bold enough to speak up sooner. We began having frequent girls' nights out with some of our other cousins. The incident also influenced how I perceived myself. I realized that I had always felt nervous around Shane's family because of my history. But standing up for myself and revealing the truth gave me greater confidence. I knew I had earned my place in the family through my own efforts, not because of wealth or prestige. Shane and I had a lengthy talk about boundaries and family dynamics. We agreed that, while we would retain contacts with his family, we would be more aggressive about our own needs and boundaries. We also decided to begin seeing a couples therapist to work through some of the remaining stress from the entire experience. In an unexpected turn of events, Shane's company offered him a promotion that required us to relocate to another state. After considerable contemplation, we decided to take it. We saw it as an opportunity for a new beginning away from the lingering unpleasantness of the ring affair. We received different reactions from our relatives when we announced our decision. Some were saddened to see us leave, while others recognized our need for space. Tori, in particular, appeared unhappy, but stated that she supported our decision. She pledged to continue working on our relationship long distance. As we packed up our house and prepared to leave, I thought about everything that had happened. The false charge, the family turmoil, and the discovery of the truth. It all appeared strange. I never knew that a misplaced ring could cause so much havoc while also leading to so much personal progress. I learned significant lessons about advocating for yourself, gathering facts before making accusations, and the power of forgiveness. I also learned that family dynamics are complex and that it is acceptable to establish limits, even with kin. Shane and I are enthusiastic for our new journey in a new city. We're excited to start a new life free of the shadows of previous family dramas. We intend to visit during the holidays and stay in touch, but we also want to build our own customs and social circle. Tori and I had a rather emotional last talk before the relocation. She thanked me for giving her a second chance and promised to be a better sister-in-law and friend. She even joked about visiting us in our new city to show that she could have fun without her nice clothes and pricey jewelry. Looking back, I could not have imagined how things would turn out when I published my first post. Life has a tendency of shocking us, and the truth can be stranger than fiction. While I wouldn't wish the experience on anyone, I am happy for the growth and adjustments it has brought to my life and relationships. My wife's sister tried to kiss me and now my wife is spiraling. Help me. Sorry for how long this is, teal daughter at the bottom. As the title says, my wife's sister made a pass at me at a recent family gathering and I have no idea what to do. For context, I think my wife Jenna is absolutely gorgeous but she has some really negative body image issues. This is in large part because of her sister Mary, who is very conventionally attractive, as opposed to Jenna's more unconventional but, IMO, striking beauty. Mary was a successful model until a couple years ago and now works in the fashion industry. In our early days of dating when I would tell Jenna she's beautiful, she would always say just wait until you see my sister. When I did finally meet her family, she would randomly press me for weeks to talk about her sister, whether I thought she was more attractive than her, etc. I always told her the truth, that I think Mary is attractive in a boring way, and that I think my wife is much more beautiful and interesting to look at. She wouldn't let it go until I confronted her about how uncomfortable it made me and asked her what was going on. This is when she told me that she always had a chip on her shoulder about her looks because of being compared with her sister growing up. They fell into the classic smart one pretty one dynamic their whole lives. She also said Mary had a habit of being flirty with all of her exes and warned me that it would happen to me eventually. She then started sobbing and begging me to not cheat on her with her sister, To which I forcefully said I would never cheat on her with anyone, let alone her sister. I've been crazy about my wife since day one, and there's literally no woman on earth who could come close to her. I honestly didn't believe her about the flirting at first. I assumed it was just an extension of her insecurity, but I was wrong. Whenever we get together with my wife's family, Mary always finds ways to touch me and make little innuendos comments about me or my body. It's super uncomfortable for everyone, especially my wife, and I've called her out on it before. She'll cool it for a while but eventually start doing it again. It's been 6 years of this, and every time it happens my wife is upset for days and I have to do a lot of reassuring. On to the current problem. A few days ago we were at my MIL's birthday party and Mary asked me to help her grab some things from the garage. As soon as we walked into the garage, she turned and pressed me up against the door with her whole body and started trying to kiss me. I immediately pushed her off and asked her what the fuck she was doing. She started giggling and saying she was just doing what we both have been thinking, and kept insisting, "You know you want to." I told her she was out of her mind and ran out of there. I went straight to my wife and told her we were leaving. The whole ride home she was asking me what was wrong. I wasn't sure whether to tell her because I knew how much it was going to hurt, but I also thought Mary would probably try to spin it as me making a move on her, so I knew I had to just say it. I told her everything and she cried the whole way home. For the last several days Mary has been calling and texting my wife doing exactly what I thought she would do, even telling my wife that I said she, Mary, was the hottest girl I've ever seen, which I had to assure my wife 1,000,000 times that I did not and would never say, even though she believes my account of the situation. She's been a complete wreck the last several days. She's hardly eating. She pulls away from my touch when I try to hug her or just hold her hand. She says she feels hideous and disgusting. And I don't know what to do. This is the lowest I have ever seen her, and it hurts to see how much she's hurting. I have no idea what to do to help her heal from this. Reddit, what should I do? Teal.er, my wife's sister tried to kiss me and this is triggering deep-set body image insecurities for my wife. How do I help her? Relevant comment. OP on his in-laws enabling Mary's behaviors and the golden child status. OP. My in-laws definitely enable her behavior. She's the golden child. They brag about her constantly. Even though my wife is literally a neuroscientist. Their mom was a pageant queen and she was their dad's much younger trophy wife. Honestly, we may have to go no contact with all of them. Update 1. I got a few requests for updates, so here it is. I first want to thank everyone so much for your advice. It was extremely helpful and gave me a lot to think about. I'm especially thankful for the folks that asked me how I was doing. I realized that I have literally never had a chance to check in with myself after these things happen, and I've actually been holding a lot of frustration and resentment about it all. I've been harassed for years and it has either been brushed off or it's been eclipsed by the impact it has on my wife. I don't blame her for it, but this has been a good lesson in me not burying my feelings for the sake of others, even for her. I also want to clarify a couple of things that came up. Several people asked about how my wife's family feels about all this, and I explained in a comment that her parents are toxic and treat Mary as the golden child, even though my wife is a freaking neuroscientist, amazingly talented musician, speaks 3 languages fluently and another 2 conversationally. My wife and her family are seriously the only people who don't seem to understand how exceptional she is. I remember meeting one of my wife's family friends and talking to them about her research, and they said, "Oh wow, her parents just told us she works at a university." Whereas my parents literally introduce her as the family genius to everyone. It makes me so fucking angry to think about how her asshole family has stolen her shine her whole life. She's literally a Renaissance woman, but all they care about is looks and money. Some folks asked me why I would ever put myself in a situation alone with Mary given everything she's done. I have no good answers for that other than I never thought she would actually try to do anything. That possibility just didn't exist in my head. I realize now that I should have seen this would happen eventually, and that I should have been less concerned with keeping the peace and more concerned with shutting Mary's shit down before it escalated to this point. Hindsight is 20/20. Anyway, on to the update. The night I posted I told my wife that if she wanted to try to repair her relationship with her sister I would respect that, but that I don't feel comfortable being around her for the foreseeable future. I said Mary has obviously been deeply jealous of my wife her whole life because she is a hollow, ugly person whose entire value has an expiration date, while my wife actually has substance. I said that I think her whole family is toxic and has done nothing but put her down her whole life, but that only she can decide whether she still wants them in her life. I also told my wife that while I don't blame her for her emotional reaction, her insecurity is something that she needs to work on for our relationship to be healthy. What Mary did was sexual assault and she's been sexually harassing me for years, but I have consistently put aside my own feelings about this problem because of how it affects her, And that has prevented me from getting the support that I need to. I told her that her reaction only serves to punish herself and me for her sister's behavior, and there's no reason to give her that kind of power. I also told her something that a commenter said that really resonated with me. The only people who have ever considered her second best are her and her family. Everyone else sees her for who she really is. She was crying the whole time and agreed that she needed to go to therapy to work on her insecurity. We were able to find a therapist who specializes in body image/self-esteem issues to work with her individually, and we're looking for a couples therapist too. My wife sent a message to her parents and sister that explained exactly what happened and told them she would reach out to them if she ever feels ready to repair their relationship. We blocked all of them everywhere, but Mary has of course been spamming my family and our friends with nonsense, claiming I attacked her, I'm a drug addict, I abuse my wife, all kinds of bullshit that thankfully nobody believes. My wife is still down in the dumps, but I can see that things are getting a little better. She's eating and sleeping more, and she's cuddling with me in the mornings again, which is nice. Now I'm planning a surprise getaway for us this weekend. We're going to one of our favorite places, and I'm going to wine and dine her and try to make her feel like the goddamn queen she is. I want to thank you all again for your help. You really helped me understand the severity of the problem, and again, thanks for helping me connect with my own feelings about all this. Y'all are the best. TL.dr. Wife and I are going to therapy. We're going no contact with her family for the foreseeable future. I'm going to woo the hell out of my wife this weekend. Relevant comment OP on how he tries to be the best husband to Jenna and enjoying life together. The only genius thing I've ever done is marry her. I'm a pretty average dude TBH, so I have no idea how I snagged her. Sad to think her low self-esteem probably played a part, but I do work hard to be a good husband every day. Update 2. So I guess my original post got reposted onto TikTok and some other subs here on Reddit, so I've been getting tons of messages asking for updates. It feels like things are mostly settled, and I'm really hoping this will be my final update. First, I want to say that I've gotten so many questions about who Mary is, and I'm just not going to say. Suffice it to say that she's never been a household name famous, but she made a living solely on modeling for about a decade from what I understand. So she must have been popular enough that fashion people might know her. I really don't know how that whole world works. But it doesn't matter how many names you drop, you're not famous if you don't have a Wikipedia page. Also got lots of comments that, mostly, jokingly called me a simp, and I can't argue with that. I totally am a simp for my wife. She's the coolest. I hope you all find a love that makes you feel this way. Okay, I think that's it. Here is the actual update. My wife loved the getaway weekend. We had a blast, and by the end of it she said she felt like herself again. For a few days after we got back things were really quiet, so we were hopeful that Mary had finally given up, but I felt uneasy about it all. Many of you warned me that Mary would try to interfere with my work, and while I initially dismissed it, I figured I would reach out to my boss just in case. I've been working at the same company for almost 10 years and she's heard me vent about Mary before, so I didn't have to explain too much. My boss just reassured me that she knows my real character and would let me know if Mary tried anything. As you predicted, Mary did try to contact my boss a couple of days later, and the following is a recounting of what my boss told me. Apparently Mary said that I needed to be fired because I was a predator and claimed to have proof that I assaulted her. My boss said that was a very serious accusation to make and asked Mary to explain what proof she had. Mary claimed there was a camera that caught the whole incident and my boss asked her to send the video. Then Mary got flustered and said the police had it, so my boss asked her to send over a copy of the police report. Then Mary said it had a lot of private information in it, so my boss asked her to redact the private information and send it over. Then Mary said she didn't feel comfortable with that, and my boss told her that she could not take action against an employee based on word of mouth from a stranger. Then Mary shouted at her about victim blaming and hung up. Unfortunately, that was not the end of it. Last Wednesday, Mary somehow sent an email from my personal email account with a dick pic, not mine obviously, to the entire office. My best guess is that I must have left my email logged in on one of my in-laws' devices. She's definitely not smart enough to actually hack me. And I know this is completely beside the point, but of course she chose the weirdest looking dick I've ever seen. I played team sports all my life. I've seen a lot of dicks, and this was something else. It's honestly kind of funny to think about Mary Googling gross penis, or something, and sifting through hundreds of images to find just the right one. I had to apologize to everyone on staff and thankfully folks were surprisingly understanding. It's actually been kind of a nice bonding experience with my coworkers. I honestly didn't consider myself to be super well liked in the office, but it feels like everyone has been going out of their way to be kind to me and it means a lot. Anyway, at this point it was clear we had to escalate things legally. I really wanted to avoid it, but she forced my hand. My wife and I have a lawyer friend who helped us draft a cease and desist letter outlining her continued harassment and the material and emotional damage this is causing us. My wife then sent a message to Mary and my in-laws with a copy of the letter and made it very clear that we would pursue criminal and/or civil proceedings if her harassment continued. My wife's mom then called her crying and begged her to just let it go and leave Mary alone. My wife calmly explained that Mary is the only person responsible for this whole situation, and that their parents have always enabled her awful behavior. She also said something she later regretted but I think was pretty badass. Mary is going to stick you two in a nursing home and steal your money the minute she has the chance, and you deserve it. After the way her mom reacted, my wife is firmly settled on cutting off her family completely. This happened on Friday, and on Sunday Mary's best frenemy Anne sent my brother a message on Facebook to say Mary is going to leave us alone and to please not sue her. I told my brother not to respond, then just sat and enjoyed the idea that Mary was out there somewhere freaking out about the potential of having to actually face the consequences of her actions. It must be such a strange feeling for her. Since then, we haven't heard a peep from the grapevine. It feels like things are finally starting to go back to normal. My wife is starting therapy next week and will be starting couples therapy in a month or two. She wants to do some work on herself first. She's also taking a short leave from work to rest and recharge. I'm so proud of her for standing up for herself with her family and finally putting her mental health and well-being first. Thanks again to everyone who offered advice. This was a messy situation, but it definitely would have been messier without your help. Teal.er, Mary tried to get me fired, so we sent her a cease and desist. Now Mary's running scared. She and my in-laws are out of our lives, and we're doing much better without them. My wife is prioritizing her wellness and I am one proud simp. Update 3. I forgot about this account completely until today and logged in to see so many comments and messages asking for an update. It's honestly touching to see how many people care about this situation and want the best for me and my wife. This will be a brief update. I don't want to make this a regular thing, and the original situation has resolved enough that I'm hopeful this will be the end of the saga. Mary and my in-laws have pretty much left us alone. My MIL still tries to contact my wife every now and then, but she's made it clear to her family that if the first words out of their mouths aren't "I'm sorry," she isn't interested in a conversation. As you can see, the past 6 months have made my wife a badass. She has done some amazing work in therapy and her confidence is growing all the time. It's not just with her family. She's more comfortable asserting herself at work, with strangers, with friends, etc. She's even stopped putting up with some of my shit. To be fair, that shit is stuff like my leaving my socks everywhere around the house, but I'm seriously proud of her for telling me to cut it out. I'm becoming a more responsible and supportive partner because she's able to communicate her needs and expectations without feeling guilty about it. And I'm able to communicate things to her without intense emotions fully eclipsing the conversation. I didn't mention this in my earlier posts, but my wife does struggle with rejection sensitivity even outside of her family. Often if I brought up something that I felt needed to change, her emotional reaction to feeling like she did something wrong would be really intense, and instead of dealing with the problem, it would become about regulating her emotions. Now my wife has really good coping tools that allow her to talk about the problem without thinking she is the problem. And the biggest update, she's pregnant. We have a baby girl due in February. I am shitting my pants with excitement. We are going to love her so much and teach her that she is more than her beauty. She's going to have happy parents who love each other and work through issues as a team. The toxic cycle will be broken. Jenna's family doesn't know, and she's not sure when she'll tell them, but if she does, there are going to be strong boundaries in place for how they can be a part of our daughter's life. And it'll start with family therapy. For now, she has one set of grandparents that will go to the end of the earth for her, and that's more than enough. My family has been absolutely incredible in their support, and they are so excited for us. Things are looking better than they ever have. That's all, folks. Thanks again for your support on this wild journey. Teal.er, Mary and in-laws have mostly left us alone. Jenna is a badass now. We're having a baby and soon I'll have 2 queens in my life. Captain Simp, over and out. New update. Hello everyone, I have come here for advice before and you were all incredibly helpful, and I could really use some support again. You can check my post history for the full story, but TL.dr. Last year my wife, Jenna, and I had to make the decision to go no contact with her whole family. Her sister, Mary, 30F, sexually assaulted me. In-laws defended her, and after some legal wrangling they finally left us alone. The situation wrecked my wife's self-esteem and tested our relationship, but we made it through. Jenna and I had our first daughter in February. She's amazing and we're doing great. We ended up moving away from Jenna's home state, NY, to mine, May, to be closer to my family, and they've been incredibly helpful with the baby. We have not seen Jenna's family since cutting contact and blocking them everywhere, and we didn't tell them about the baby. Yesterday we received a letter in the mail from my MIL and FIL. No idea how they got our address. Apparently my FIL has been diagnosed with late-stage cancer and is being told he could be dead in weeks. In-laws went on about how sorry they were for the way they handled the situation with Mary. They also apologized for the way they've treated my wife her whole life. Again, check post history, but basically Mary was the golden child and Jenna was an afterthought despite being super accomplished. They ended by saying they recently heard about the baby through the grapevine and want to meet their grandchild. To me, the apology seemed genuine. They went into detail on what they did wrong, apologized and expressed remorse, and explained what they should have done differently. They said they hoped to earn our forgiveness with time and were willing to do family therapy to heal our relationship. Jenna is not having it. She feels like it's too little too late and doesn't want to respond. She also suspects that they're lying about FIL's cancer and just want to pressure us into reconciliation so they can meet the baby. It seems ludicrous, but I guess I wouldn't put it past them. I want to respect my wife's feelings around this, but I'm worried that if the cancer is real, she may regret not taking this opportunity for reconciliation before he dies. I expressed this to her, but she is adamant and I haven't broached the topic since. My instinct is to wait a few more days until the shock wears off to talk about it again. I just don't know what the best way to approach it would be. I certainly don't want to force my wife to do anything she doesn't want to do, but I feel like she's not thinking clearly about this right now. It also must be noted that our baby is still struggling with sleep and we're both tired and emotional all the time, so I feel like this might be influencing how she feels about all this. What should I do here? Should I try again or just let it be? TLDR, in-laws are attempting to reconcile after claiming FIL was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Wife does not want to consider it, but I am worried she will regret it later on. Edit. People, stop being mean to me. I too am tired and emotional and my feelings are getting hurt. I am not forcing my wife to do anything. I brought it up one time. I know this is not about me. I don't personally care either way, I just want to support my wife. I intend to tell her I'm here to listen, talk about it if she wants to, but I fully support her decisions around this. She has a great therapist she trusts and I'll be here to support her however I can. Relevant comments. OP on respecting his wife's decisions on how she wants to deal with the possible family health situation if it's real. OP, to be clear, I will absolutely respect whatever decision she makes. I just feel like the news is so fresh and we're in such an emotionally complex place as it is that she may not be thinking clearly about it. A similar situation happened to a friend of mine and he regretted it for years, actually turning to alcohol pretty hard for a while after. My wife has worked really hard to improve her mental health and I worry about how the regret might set her back. Although I suppose if her family is actually lying, manipulating us, that would set her back too. I just don't know. Would it be terrible to bring it up again in a few days just to see if she feels differently? Edit. I've also thought about asking my parents to take the baby for a couple of days so we can get away and recharge. Maybe just getting my wife in a better headspace would allow her to think things through more carefully / less reactively. OP receiving advice on letting his wife lead the way of dealing with her family. She knows what her family is like all her life. OP, this was really helpful, thank you so much. I will give it time and let her lead the way. I hadn't thought about that, earn it with time thing. Like if he actually is about to die, what time are they talking about? And reading from other people that this is a common manipulation tactic makes me feel more strongly that my wife's instinct about them lying is correct. OP on letting his wife make decisions and don't bring their daughter into the mix. OP, I would never do this. Not sure what part of I would never force my wife to do anything she doesn't want to do isn't getting through to people, but I would never betray her like that. I've never gone behind her back and never will. We make decisions as a team and this is her call. I don't personally care if we never see them again. It isn't about me. I came here for advice on how to support my wife and hold space for her to talk about it. All I care about is her being okay. Fiancé vanishes after leaving me with his sick son. Now his parents have disowned him and given me their house. For over 8 months now, I, F32, have been engaged to my fiancé, M38. For the past year, we have shared accommodation in his house. From his former marriage, he has a 7-year-old autistic kid who suffers regular illness. The lad requires much extra care and attention. My fiancé received a call from his ex-wife last week from another state, around a 6-hour drive away. He informed me he needed to go assist her since there was some kind of emergency. Although they don't often interact outside of talking about their son's care, I was shocked. Nevertheless, I knew that crises arise, so I said okay. That same day he left, declaring he would most likely return in 2 to 3 days. He still hasn't returned after 1 week. Every day I have been phoning him, and he always says the same, he will be back shortly and it is taking longer than intended. He never provides me any specifics regarding what is really happening though. I am here alone looking after his son in the meantime. It's rather difficult. Though I'm not equipped to manage his particular requirements, I still care about the lad. He experiences meltdowns for which I have no idea how to control. He has been sick with a fever for the past few days, which is frightening since I do not know his medical history well. He needs help with simple chores that I am not always sure how to accomplish. Every day I'm growing more agitated and concerned. Why won't my fiancé inform me about the emergency's nature? Why is that so slow? I'm beginning to question whether something else is going on or whether there is truly an emergency at all. When I ask him straight what the issue is, he responds evasively, saying, "It's complicated," or "I'll explain when I get back." Not sure what to believe. He's shielding me from terrible news, but another part of me is dubious that he may be lying about the whole event since I feel as though something significant has happened. Dealing with his son around the clock wears me out. Though this is far more than I signed up for, I love the boy. I am not his parent, hence I am not suited to be his only caregiver for a long run. I worry I might do something wrong and botch up. Furthermore, upsetting me is my fiancé's lack of apparent awareness of how challenging this is for me. He hardly asks how we're doing when I phone. He has not volunteered to return or forward someone else to assist. Like he has forgotten about us. What to do is unknown. Though I'm at my wit's end, I can't leave his son alone. Though I'm scared about overstepping or creating trouble, I'm thinking about phoning the parents of my fiancé to see if they might come help. If there is a legitimate crisis my fiancé is handling, I also want not to humiliate him. Am I overreacting? Should I be more patient or is this as strange as it feels to me? I am beginning to doubt our relationship overall. What does it say about his dedication to me and our future if he could simply leave us like this without saying anything? I would much benefit from any guidance. Has anyone found themselves in a similar circumstance? What action ought I to take? Yes, this exploded overnight. I appreciate your replies and support overall. I'll try to address some often asked questions. I have tried texting him, yes. He answers, but in the same evasive manner. No, I do not have his ex-wife's contact information. I have never run across her. Although his son is in special education, right now school is off for summer vacation. Part-time from home, I have been able to look after him around the clock. Together for 2 years overall, my fiancé and I have for much of that time, I have known his son. Yet I have never been left alone with him for more than 1 day before. Many of you advise me to run a welfare check by phoning the police in his ex-wife's city. Though I'm thinking about it, should a family emergency arise, I worry about starting trouble. I believe I should let him 1 more day to provide me with a proper justification. If he doesn't, I'll attempt first to call his parents and then think about phoning the police. A few of you have wanted further history on our relationship and his past marriage. I will relate what I know. My fiancé spent 9 years married to his ex-wife. When their kid was 4, they divorced. From what he has told me, their split was much influenced by the burden of raising a child with special needs. Depressed and feeling overwhelmed, his ex-wife battled. They chose to split even though they first considered counseling. Though it wasn't very nasty, the divorce wasn't really neat either. Their differences were mostly related to how their son was cared for and housed. They finally decided on my fiancé having main custody. His ex visits 1 weekend a month and for 1 week during summer and winter breaks. According to my fiancé, his ex-wife struggles with his requirements even if she loves their son. She agreed to limited custody for this reason. She is usually late, but pays child support. Although my fiancé doesn't enjoy talking about mom, he has noted that since the divorce she has struggled personally. Though he never mentioned specifics, I sensed he meant mental health or perhaps drug problems. My fiancé had been divorced roughly a year when we first met. He told me straightforwardly that he had a special needs child and made sure I knew what I was entering. I respect his top focus, his son, as I have always known about it. I enjoy one of his qualities most of all. He is a fantastic, committed father. Our relationship grew really rapidly. Following a year of dating, we moved in together and he proposed 4 months later. Things have been rather decent generally. He treats me kindly, is diligent and is, until now, we had few big difficulties adjusting to life as a blended family. That's why this situation is so confusing and damaging. He leaving us like this and being so quiet are absolutely against his nature. I kept thinking whether I missed any red flags or indicators along the road. Since many have inquired, a few more specifics regarding his son. He is 7 years old. Mostly using a tablet software and some simple signs, he speaks when his schedule is thrown off or he becomes overstimulated. He is prone to meltdowns. His many dietary allergies and sensitivities call for a specific diet. He also has epilepsy, which is largely under control with medication but still causes sporadic episodes. He physically is tiny for his age and exhibits some motor skill deficits. He needs assistance with restroom use, dressing, and bathing. He wears pull-ups at night and occasionally throughout the day should we be out for a protracted period. During the academic year he attends a special education program offering speech therapy, occupational therapy, and other services. Usually, he needs continuous supervision even at home. He regularly wakes up several times a night and struggles to fall asleep. I have before assisted in his care, but always with my fiancée at hand. Being totally accountable for him is the first thing I have done, and it is taxing. Doing something incorrectly or neglecting a sign indicating he requires medical attention terrifies me. Some have advised me to ask his therapist or doctor for guidance. That's a good suggestion. I'll probably do that today. I'll compile a list of all his doctors and try to find some direction. About the following actions with my fiancé, I'm not sure. Though another part of me feels like this is unforgivable, regardless of the cause, another part of me wants to provide him the benefit of the doubt. I'll fall asleep on it and decide whether to call the cops or his parents first thing in the morning. I appreciate once more all of your guidance and encouragement. When I get additional data, I'll update. Update 1, though not fantastic news, I have an update. This morning, I broke down at last and phoned the parents of my fiancé. They knew he was even out of town, but not that startled, they drove right over to assist their grandson. I made the decision to bite the bullet and call the police department in his ex-wife's city to ask for a welfare check while they were en route. The cop I spoke with indicated they would send someone to her address and was quite sympathetic. About 1 hour later, the cops phoned me back. They claimed to have corresponding contacts with my fiancé and his ex-wife. Both are good. No emergency exists here. Privacy rules prevented the officer from providing additional specifics, but he stressed that there was no proof of any crime or threat. My fiancé called at last as I was organizing this information with my future in-laws. He stated he was going home right away to personally explain everything since he understood I must be angry and perplexed. He advised me to wait to make decisions until we could personally discuss things. Not sure what to believe. Though I'm glad he's all right, I also become enraged and offended. With this kind of abandonment of us, what possible reason could there be? Like me, his parents are equally perplexed and offended. They have volunteered to stay with us till he returns, late tonight. Although I appreciate their assistance with their grandson, I am dreading the upcoming conversation. Our whole relationship seems to have been brought into doubt. Once we talk, I will update once again. I appreciate your help during this insane scenario. Update 2. For hours I have been looking at my desktop attempting to come up with the correct words to describe what happened. I promised to let you all know, so here goes. My hands are shaking as I type this and I still find it difficult to believe it's real. Rather than arriving home as promised last night, my fiancé phoned. I replied right away, relief flooding me at the sight of his name on my phone. That kind of relief was fleeting. I'm not coming home, he said with a strange calmness. I'm staying here with Sarah. The woman he'd claimed required emergency assistance, his ex-wife. I thought of myself as having been stabbed in the gut. What do you mean you're not coming home? I was able to choke out. What about your son? What about us? He stopped long before speaking once more. We have decided to attempt our marriage once more, Sarah and I. After our past week of reconnecting, both of us believe this to be the appropriate course of action. I found it difficult to breathe, it cannot be occurring this way. But your son? I said, stuttering. She requires you. He has autism. He depends on consistency and schedule. You cannot just walk away from him. Still another wait. His voice was lower, almost embarrassed as he spoke once again. We have discussed it, and while we are repairing our relationship, we believe it would be too challenging to look after a child with such great requirements. For now, we believe he would be best staying with you and my parents. I came upon crimson. The man I knew, the committed parent I had grown in love with, would never say something like this. Would not forsake his child, particularly one with special needs. Your autistic son is inconvenient for your new life plans. You are leaving him? I snarled, anger replacing my surprise. Who are you? Right now I hardly know you at all. I wasn't listening while he tried to defend his behavior. I told him precisely how disgusted and damaged I felt. I called him a liar, a coward, a horrible father. I informed him I would be letting the authorities know his son had been abandoned. Weakly protesting, "You cannot do that." I grabbed and hanged "Watch me." My head whirling, I sat there in startled quiet for a few minutes. Then I turned behind me and heard a little voice. "Where's Daddy?" I turned to find her fiancé's son clutching his iPad at the doorway. My heart started to break once more. How would I approach explaining this to him? I got him back to bed using hazy assurances that Daddy would be home shortly. Though I had no other to say, it felt like a lie. I phoned my fiancé's parents once he was asleep. Arriving an hour later, they looked perplexed and frightened. I told them everything and got them seated. While I spoke, his father's face grew redder and redder. His mother broke down crying. When I finished, his father thundered, "What about his son? That would be too difficult, too challenging?" "I'll demonstrate the challenge." Tears flooding her face, his mother was shaking her head. "I don't understand," she said repeatedly. "This is not at all like him. More than all, he adores that boy." Most of the evening we stayed up, alternately feeling loss, uncertainty and rage. By daybreak, we had a strategy. First we visited the police station. When we described the circumstances, the cops were somewhat worried. They stated they would be looking at child abandonment and gathered through statements from every one of us. "We treat cases involving special needs children very seriously," the detective reassured us. "We shall be thoroughly investigating this." We next spoke with a lawyer to go over custody choices. I didn't have legal rights to his son as my fiancé and I weren't married. As next of kin though, his parents might seek emergency custody. The attorney got right on the paperwork. My phone was blowing out messages and missed calls from my fiancé all through this. I paid them all little attention. His voice and his justifications made me sick. His folks settled me down at the kitchen table when we arrived home. Though they appeared worn out and damaged, their eyes gleamed with a steely will. "We have made a decision," his father remarked, his voice austere but emotionally charged. "We're drowning him." I blinked unexpectedly. "Are you clear? That is a major stride." His mother nodded, blotting away a tear. "We cannot respect what he has done, abandoning his child and lying to all of us. It is unchangeable. Even though he is our kid, we want nothing to do with someone who would do that. Our son raised him better than this," his father said. "I know I can't call someone who would abandon their special needs child son. I'm not sure what's gotten into him." I nodded, too familiar with their suffering and resentment. "We wanted to also discuss the house and our grandson," his mother said. "We want you to remain here for as long as is necessary. We understand this has been rather shocking, and we want you not to have to worry about where to live on top of all else." I started to object, but she held a hand to halt me. "Please let us handle this. We know our grandson trusts you, and you have been quite wonderful. If he stays here with you for now, where things are familiar, we believe it would be best. We want him to have as much stability as possible, hence we will take custody but—" Tears welling up in my eyes made sense. Particularly in the middle of their personal suffering, their generosity was astounding. "Thank you," I managed to whisper. The following several days passed as a haze of activity. We visited social workers, spoke with lawyers extensively, and had many sessions with the kid of my ex-fiancé attempting to explain what was occurring in words he could grasp. Seeing his uncertainty and anguish was terrible. Not understanding why his dad wasn't returning home, he kept asking for him. Though we did our best to console him, how would you explain to a 7-year-old autistic boy that his father had left him? My ex kept text messaging and calling. At last I read some of his messages. They combined requests for understanding, apologies, and defenses. He said he still loved his son but felt this was for the best. He mentioned that Sarah and he were intending to start over in another state. Saying it would just complicate matters, he urged me not to notify the authorities. I ignored all of it. Instead, I forwarded every correspondence to the investigator working on the matter. The days stretched into weeks, and we adjusted to a different schedule. Parents of my ex visited daily to assist with their grandson. Knowing how vital routine was to him, we cooperated to keep his calendar as nearly perfect as we could. I put myself into studying all I could on raising an autistic child. I visited with his doctors and therapists, joined internet support groups and read books. Though at times it was overwhelming, I was resolved to do right by this small child who had gone through so much. Through it all, his grandparents were really outstanding. They were there for every minor triumph, every sleepless night, every meltdown. Though I knew they were still working through their own loss and resentment over their son's behavior, they never grumbled. About 1 month after everything transpired, one evening I was sitting on the porch after at last getting my ex's son asleep. His granny came out to sit next to me. How are you holding up, sweetheart? She questioned softly. I grumbled and ran a hand over my hair. I'm managing. Though difficult, we are moving toward it. She nodded, stroking my hand. You are doing a really wonderful job. We really appreciate you staying by our grandson through all of this. Tears were pricking at my eyes. I said, I love him, simply. I could not see walking away, no matter how hard it gets. She mumbled a sorrowful grin. That's what it means to be a parent overall. It's unfortunate our son found that incomprehensible. We watched the stars emerge in companionable silence for some time. She finally asked, Have you heard anything more from him? I gave my head a shake. Not since last week. Trying to defend himself, he sent another protracted email. I answered none. She let out a big sigh. I never thought I would say this about my own child, but now he has to live with the repercussions. He made his choice. I nodded, caught in a mixture of resentment and grief. I keep wondering if there were signs I missed, if I should have seen this coming somewhat. She put her hand between mine. Don't treat yourself in such a way. Nobody of us saw this approaching. He tricked every one of us. Sitting there, I started to consider how much had changed in not too long. 1 month ago, I felt I understood the course of my future. I was planning to start a life with a man I loved, be stepmother to his special needs son, and be married. Future vanished from us now. In place of it was something I never would have thought possible. Along with his parents, I was staying in the house of my ex-fiancé helping to raise his baby. Therapy visits, meltdown control, and innumerable little problems occupied my days. Though it was not the life I had intended, I discovered as I sat on the porch that it was one I was beginning to adore. This small child had totally captured my heart since his own father had left him behind. His grandparents, who had every right to leave this disaster, had accepted me as family instead. Yes, there were times when I wanted to yell at the unfairness of it all, but there was also love and purpose and a sense of belonging I hadn't expected to discover following such betrayal. Regarding my ex-fiancé, I have heard via the grapevine that he and his ex-wife did in fact relocate outside of state. The cops are still looking at things. His acts probably have legal ramifications. Though generally I just hope he stays away, part of me hopes he will face justice for what he has done. We are all resolved to show his son the love and stability he requires. He deserves better. I have no idea what the future presents. Though I'm precisely where I need to be right now. Helping to care for a small kid deserving of all the love in the world. I'm not sure whether I can ever completely understand why my ex did what he did. I appreciate all of your help over this somewhat challenging period. More than you could have ever imagined, your kind comments and guidance have meant I want to concentrate on our new family dynamic and give my ex's son all the care he needs, hence I might not update again for some time, but know that your support has truly changed our life. I just discovered my husband has been telling his coworkers I'm his sister. What should I do? I need advice. Throwaway account because I don't use or understand Reddit, but I really need advice from someone not connected to me or my husband. My husband, I'll call him Josh, and I have been together for 6 years, married for 4, and we don't have kids. We have a really healthy and communicative relationship. We're both pretty easygoing and I really love him. He started working at a large accounting firm about 3 years ago, and from what he tells me he loves it there. He's made a lot of friends through his job and he goes out with them for drinks and social events quite often. And I've been totally okay with that. I'm quite introverted, so I've never been interested in meeting his colleagues or work friends, nor have I asked to. I've got my own circle of friends and I'm fine with us having separate friend groups. After what happened yesterday, it only just occurred to me that he has never actually asked me if I'd like to meet any of them, or go to one of his work events. I guess that's important context. Anyway, I'll start with what happened a few months ago, that I had brushed off until now. I was at a bar with some friends for a couple of Friday after work drinks, and a guy approached me. He was there with some friends too. He looked slightly familiar, but I hadn't met him before. He seemed friendly enough, and he asked me, my name, right? I think I must have just given him a confused look, because he followed up with, I'm Jake, I work with Josh. I realized that I recognized him from some photos on my husband's phone. I don't use social media except for a private Instagram, so I'm not sure if he posted the photos anywhere. But we've got a very trusting relationship, so I look in his photos sometimes. Don't hate me. This is where it gets a bit embarrassing. I'm a bit socially awkward, and so I struggled to end the conversation, but he just kept talking at me. I guess he was already a couple of beers deep. But while he was talking, he said something like, It's great that you guys are still so close. I haven't talked to my brother in ages. At the time I was like, huh? But I just assumed he was drunk and not making sense, so I ignored it. He started to get a little flirty, so I turned to my friends and we left shortly after that. I didn't say anything to them about it and it didn't seem like a big deal to me. I also decided not to tell my husband that I had met his coworker Jake. Not to hide it, but because I figured the guy wouldn't even remember talking to me, and I didn't want to make it awkward for Josh at work by telling him his colleague tried to hit on me. I just thought no harm, no foul. But yesterday morning, I was out walking our dog, Monty. He's a cross between a few breeds and has very unique markings. This matters, I promise. And was on my way to my regular cafe, which is in town. I was waiting in line to order, and the guy in front was an older man. He got his coffee and turned around, but stopped and looked at my dog and goes, "Hello, Monty." Monty was super excited to see him, apparently, and so I guessed that the guy was another colleague of Josh's, because Josh brings the dog to the office a couple of times a week. I thought it was sweet, to be honest, so I smiled at him and said hi. He introduced himself. I guessed correctly that he was a colleague, but then he said something like, "Aren't you a good sister?" walking his dog for him. I was so confused that I didn't even know how to react at first, so I stumbled on my words and just said, "It's my dog." I regret it, but I genuinely couldn't bring myself to correct him and say that I'm Josh's wife and not his sister. It was just too awkward, and I just wanted to leave because I think was suddenly dawning on me what might have been going on. He asked me something about sharing a dog, but I was able to escape the conversation by being next in line to order my coffee, and he left. I seriously don't know what to do, because what the fuck? Do I even ask my husband about this? Part of me is just assuming or hoping that it's a mistake, that he doesn't talk about me much at work and they assume we are related because we both have brown hair. But the thought that he has been telling his coworkers that I'm his sister, and evidently they have seen what I look like, so they must have seen photos, makes my stomach churn. I don't even know how I would broach the subject with him. I need some help. What would you guys do in this situation? I have only told one friend what happened because it's so weird and embarrassing, and she has jumped straight to time to plot his downfall. Because she's my ride or die, love her, but I don't want to immediately assume the worst, or ruin my marriage over something that could be nothing. I'm sorry for the long and rambly post, but I would really appreciate any and all advice. Edit, holy fuck. Thank you everyone who commented with some advice. I haven't read all of them, but I really appreciate the suggestions from you guys. A small update, Josh came home at about 2:30 a.m. last night, but he was drunk so he just went straight to sleep, which is fine by me because fuck having this conversation in that state. I've just woken up but he's still sleeping. First thing I just want to clear up. I've seen a lot of people suggesting I have crippling social anxiety, or am severely introverted, which I suppose you could glean from the way I explained what happened, but I'm not. I meant that I'm slightly introverted and that I'm not the most eager to meet lots of new people at once, especially a bunch of finance bros whose weekends consist of unending sports bar beers, where I assume I would be mansplained everything until my ears bleed. Prob a negative assumption, but I'm sure some of you know what I mean. I suppose you could say that I'm confrontation averse, in that I'm quite laid back and prefer to keep a conversation easy and positive. IDK. I don't like it when things are awkward, and correcting when people misrecognize me is one of those things, but I'm not terrified of confrontation. Also, my husband and I do share some mutual friends. I didn't explain that well, but our lives are not entirely separate. The way he acts towards me around our mutual friends is extremely affectionate and normal. It is only his work friends that I have never interacted with. I've also seen some people suggest that what is going on is equivalent to my husband beating me and me hopelessly wondering whether I should break up with him. Or that I'm stupid for thinking my relationship was healthy when it clearly isn't. Like, damn, cut me some slack. I'm a real person and this is an entirely alien and bizarre situation for me. My first reaction wasn't to assume the worst, but I do appreciate that you all have made me certain that it is a big deal. I guess I needed confirmation that the things that happened are enough proof that Josh has been purposefully lying, and they weren't just mix-ups. I'm going to talk to him today and ask him directly why he's telling his coworkers that I'm his sister. I followed the advice of writing my points down so that they don't get lost if I get emotional, lol. I will do my best not to let him slither out of it, and I hope he has some proof that his colleagues know I'm his wife. I know that's not the theatrical confrontation you guys were hoping for, but it's a Saturday, and I can't wait. Wish me luck, thank you all. Update 1. Hi everyone, I just wanted to say thank you for overwhelming amount of support and advice. I'm blown away and it really means a lot and has kept me grounded. I'm sorry for the slow update. I know a lot of you were interested in what happened. I actually tried to update on Saturday, but it turns out this subreddit doesn't allow me to post an update until 48 hours after my first post. I'm also only allowed to post one single update, so I'll try to fit as much as I can here. Sorry for how long it might end up getting. I'll just get right into it. On Saturday morning I woke up earlier than my husband. He was very hungover, so he was like sleeping a rock. But you guys will be proud of me, because I followed some advice and decided to look through his phone properly while he was sleeping. I have been on his phone so often just pissing around on it that I had never thought to check anything very deeply. I know his passcode by heart. I checked all the expected things like Instagram DMs, Facebook Messenger, his iMessages, etc., and I didn't find anything that set off alarm bells to me. But I know from some comments that people who are cheating are good at covering their tracks and hiding messages, so I kept looking around. I saw he had a folder called Work, and so I looked in there, and he had a couple of Microsoft apps, Outlook, Authenticator, OneNote, etc., but he also had MS Teams. So I opened that up and had a look around. It did feel like I might have been breaking laws looking at his work messages, but I obviously had to. Anyway, I was already upset to see that he had a bunch of one-on-one chats with several female coworkers. Which, at first glance, is obviously not an issue, because everyone works with people of the opposite gender and are required to communicate with them. But a couple of them were vaguely flirty. Nothing I would call egregious, but there would be the occasional message between them with some playful innuendo or a wink emoji. These upset me, obviously, and they did send me into a bit of a spiral, but I didn't find anything that suggested he was having an out-and-out affair with any of them. Still, I followed someone's suggestion of screenshotting the messages and I airdropped them to myself. I still wanted some evidence of the lie though. Some proof of Josh telling someone that I was his sister directly. A commenter suggested that I go through his messages and search for keyword sister. I wanted to reply to your comment and say thank you for the idea, but the post was locked, so I couldn't, but thank you. So I searched for sis on his MS Teams, hoping to find results for both sister and sis. A bunch of messages from all hands group chats or one-on-one chats came up from other people, all unrelated and about their own sisters or whatever. But my heart dropped out my ass LOL, when I saw there was a direct message from Jake, the guy from the bar, to Josh from a Monday a few months ago. Jake's messages said, "Ran into your sis at the bar on Fry. She's single, right?" And my husband had the fucking gall to reply, "Nah, she's married." I literally almost burst into flames on the spot when I saw that. I can't even describe how much I was shaking after reading those messages. Firstly, that I could have confronted Josh about this months ago. I was, and still am, so furious with myself for that. Josh would have been fucking praying I didn't remember meeting Jake or that I wouldn't mention it, and he would have been counting his lucky stars that I never did. He probably thought he was hot shit for getting away with that, and I nearly burnt a hole through the floor thinking about it, LOL. But secondly, I was just in shock that he had the balls to tell this guy that I'm the one who is married because he doesn't want anyone having it on with me, but he is allowed to coyly flirt with every fucking woman in the office. Anyway, I kept going back through the search results on his MS Teams, and eventually I got as far back as 2-ish years ago, and I did in fact find a message from Josh himself to a group chat. It said me and sis in Nusa Dua. I clicked on that and saw that he had sent it alongside a bunch of photos of him and I from our holiday to Bali. We went to Bali for our second anniversary. I thought he probably chose those photos because he's shirtless and had been working out, so he looked hot in all of them. I was in tears seeing all of this, obviously. I took screenshots of those too and airdropped all of the screenshots to myself. Needless to say, I was devastated, and still am, to see all of that. I am still struggling to even process it at all. But that all happened on Saturday morning, and I immediately took myself to my friend's house. I'll call her Sophie. I went to her place to cry it out and show her what I found, and she was extremely supportive and probably more furious than me, LOL. At around 1:30 p.m. I got a phone call from Josh, and I hung it up immediately. He sent me a few messages along the lines of, "Where are you, baby? I'm ordering food, want some? Sad to not wake up next to you this morning." Guys, I have to reiterate how much I love this man, and how fucking heart-wrenching it was to see him still acting like nothing had gone wrong. It took so much willpower to not just pretend none of it had ever happened and go home to him. I know a lot of you will yell at me or accuse me of being terrified of confronting him about this, which is not true. Please have some empathy. It takes me time to process my emotions, and I wouldn't have even been able to form a sentence if I tried to confront him immediately after seeing those messages. I needed some time away with Sophie to recollect myself, and so I stayed the night at her place. She ordered us Chinese and she helped me plan how I would confront him. I got a bunch more texts and calls from him as the evening progressed, and I eventually put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Sunday morning I woke up feeling more angry than sad, so I opened my phone and finally replied to his messages. "Coming home now, need to talk." I kept it cryptic to make him squirm, to be honest. Because I was fraught with emotions, I can't remember the entire conversation word for word, but I'll try to replay it as best I can. Long story short, I got home and he tried to hug me, but I refused him and we just stood in the kitchen. I did confront him like someone suggested. I just said, "Why have you been telling your coworkers I'm your sister?" I wish it would have been like a movie scene where the color drained from his face, or he immediately looked like a deer in headlights, but he didn't. It was like he had been girding himself for this confrontation for a while, because he just frowned at me and looked flabbergasted. He just said, "Huh?" This made me so angry. How are you going to pretend to be stupid after 3 years of lying? I basically said, "Don't play fucking dumb. 2 of your coworkers have greeted me as your sister and I have proof of you telling them. And I know you're pretending to be single." Essentially, I asked him what he had to say for himself. He still played stupid. He became moderately defensive and just kept saying, "I don't know what you're talking about," or, "Why would I lie about you?" I cannot describe how furious I was at this point, but I was in tears. I always cry when I'm angry. So he was trying to comfort me as if I was having some kind of irrational breakdown. I showed him the screenshot of his message saying "me and sis," and I said something like, "You tell me." He just said, "I don't know what I'm looking at," and, "I'm confused." I got so angry that I left again, and went back to Sophie's, because it felt like a dead-end road. I didn't think I was going to get him to admit to anything and I was just getting so furious I couldn't continue. He was really upset and in tears, which to me was evidence that he knew he was lying and that he was going to have to come up with some explanation. He tried to get me to stay, but I told him that until you have something to say for yourself, we've got nothing to talk about. At like 8:30-ish, he called me again and I did pick up. He basically asked for us to talk and he said he has some things to say. So I went back to our apartment. He had written out a bunch of stuff on a piece of paper as if he had prepared a speech and sat me down on the couch. He asked me not to say anything while he was explaining himself. I'll write down the gist of what he said in bullet points. He started by apologizing relentlessly and admitting that he pretended to be stupid before because he couldn't immediately think of something to say for himself. He said that immediately after he started at his job, he realized the atmosphere was like a frat house. All of his team members were men in their 20s and 30s that were single and fuckboys, his word. He noticed that the one guy in their team that was married would either get picked on, or essentially excluded from any and all social interactions. That included getting lunch, inside jokes, going out on Friday, etc. These guys were friendly and welcoming to Josh, and he admitted that he was desperate to fit in with them. He hated feeling like fresh meat. So he was scared that saying he was married would alienate him from his coworkers, and at first just never mentioned that he was married. He said he did wear his wedding ring and that they had just never pointed it out. A few months in, they were all out drinking after work. He admitted that after one of his workmates saw a picture of him and I on his lock screen, they asked him who I was, and in a moment of panic he said, "My sister." He was really apologetic at this point, and he was crying a lot. He couldn't even look at me and he was just reading what he had written down. Anyway, he said that from then, he basically dug himself a deeper and deeper grave, because they kept grilling him about me and wanting to see more pictures of me. He said he had let it go on too long and that he didn't have the balls to admit to the lie. They would always bring me up and ask shit like, "Did you give her my number yet?" Or joke that they had slept with me, etc. So when he got that message from Jake, he essentially thought it was just him taking the piss, but he didn't like the jokes they were making about me and said that I was married in hopes they would stop. They didn't. He said that this wasn't the first time he told them I was married. In fact, he had said so pretty much immediately after saying I was his sister. He said that those pictures of us in Nusa Dua were the only pictures that he had purposefully sent them and deliberately lied about, after what he called an endless barrage of pestering from his colleagues to share the pics from his holiday. He said he was really ashamed that he did that. He told me that he had never had an affair or even considered it, that the messages between him and his female colleagues were banter and that it was commonplace to talk to people like that in the office. He also said he knows how disgusting it is and he is embarrassed to have been acting like a fuckboy. Again, his word. He concluded his speech by apologizing again, and said that he was disgusted with himself and ashamed that he had lied for so long, but felt like he had trapped himself and that he couldn't find a way to get himself out of it. He said he knows he could have confessed the truth to either his coworkers or to me at any point but that he didn't because he was a coward. He said that he'll confess to his entire office that he lied and that I am his wife and not his sister if I want him to. He said that he will quit his job without a word if it would make me feel better, and that he hopes I can forgive him but he understands if I can't. Anyway, I couldn't really think of anything to say at that point. He went to lock himself in the bathroom and I just sat on the couch crying. I still don't know if I can trust what he said, and a lie that extreme is just baffling to me. If he can lie like that, for so long, what else could he be lying about? But his explanation and apologies seemed so sincere and genuine, and I guess to an extent what he said is believable. He has always been extroverted but very susceptible to peer pressure, especially from other blokes. If nothing else, to me, it's a sign of shocking immaturity. Anyway, I packed up a bag and went back to Sophie's, and I'm still at her place as I'm writing this. She said I can stay as long as I need to. I told Josh that I needed time away from him to think about everything and whether or not I believe him or whether I can ever trust him again. He told me to take as long as I needed and that he will still be there if or when I get back, he said. Even if it takes a year. Right now nothing feels real. I'm still dealing with the emotional whiplash from all of this and I can't keep food down or think about anything. I've taken the day off work and Josh told me he's going to take off the whole week. Sophie and my other friends have told me not to make a decision on anything until my head is clear. I spoke to my parents this morning and my mom says it's just a bump in the road, but she and my dad adore Josh so they're pretty biased, lol. That's where I am right now. I'll take some time before I consider my next steps. I can't say whether I'm leaning towards forgiveness or divorce, but those are really the only options. I kind of feel lost in a void at the moment. That's probably the best way to describe it, just emptiness. Thanks again for all of your advice and support. I'm truly so grateful, and having this place to write down all of my thoughts has been helpful to get my mind a little clearer. This will be my last update, unless I make an edit to clear things up. All the best 3. My mom abandoned me, and my cruel stepdad kicked me out. Years later, they're back begging for help, and I told them this. For the past 5 years, I, an 18-year-old man, have lived with my mother and stepdad. My life changed dramatically when at 10, my biological dad died in a vehicle accident. For my mom as much as for me, it was a trying period. For a few years, we battled both financially and emotionally until my mom met Mark when I was 12. They spent a year dating before getting married when I was 13. Mark clearly didn't like me right from the start. He always saw me as a burden and a continual reminder of my mother's previous relationship. That day they were wedded to me. I noticed Mark staring coldly, calculatedly while everyone was celebrating. Though I dismissed it as simply wedding day nerves, it made me shudder. Growing up, I made every effort to fit in with Mark. Along with maintaining my grades and helping him with yard work or watching football, activities he liked, I worked around the house. Still, it never was sufficient whatever I did. He would always find means to denigrate me or make me unwelcome. Mark would criticize me for not being his actual son or for simply squandering room in his house. If it were up to me, you would be out on the street where you belong, he would say, or, you're lucky your mother loves you because no one else would put up with a useless kid like you. Though they hurt, I tried not to let them define me. When she saw these exchanges, my mother would try to referee, but she usually sided with Mark to diffuse conflict. She might remark, he doesn't mean it that way, or you need to try harder to get along with Mark. In my own house, I felt as though I was continually treading on eggshells. As I aged, things grew worse. Mark insisted on my paying rent when I reached 16 and started working part-time at a nearby grocery store. Though she felt it was a little harsh, my mother agreed it would teach me responsibility. So a good amount of my little pay went to Mark every month, leaving me nothing to save or spend on myself. My mother recently landed an incredible job overseas. She could possibly acquire a permanent job from a 6-month contract she was presented with in Europe. I could see the thrill in her eyes when she initially told me about it. I had not seen her genuinely delighted about something in years. But worries about living alone with Mark soon eclipsed my delight for her. I told my mother about how Mark treated me when she was away, therefore expressing my worries. I related stories of events when he would accidentally ruin items I cared about, such as the model airplane my dad and I created together before he passed away, or how he would forget to buy groceries I could eat knowing I had dietary restrictions. My mother dismissed it, saying Mark was merely tough and I was exaggerating. She advised me to give him an opportunity and that living together might strengthen our relationship. That day my mother left was among the toughest of my life. I hugged her tightly while we stood at the airport, stifling tears. Though I wanted her to stay, to not be left with Mark alone, I couldn't bring myself to slow her down. Mark laid his hand on my shoulder as she passed the security checkpoint. Though his hold was agonizing, to anyone observing it would have looked like a consoling action. His voice chilly, he continued, "Let's go home, boy. Things are going to be different now." And they were different as well. Things plummeted from the time we arrived home. Mark started screaming at me for the most minor transgressions. Should I leave a dish in the sink or arrive home 5 minutes later than usual, he would yell. Once on my way to school, I unintentionally left a light on in my room. Mark had taken out every light bulb from my room when I returned. "You don't deserve to have any if you can't remember to turn off the lights," he remarked, grinning. Saying he was merely letting me stay because of my mother, he threatened to kick me out several times. "One incorrect move," he would counsel, "and you'll be out on the street. And who do you suppose your mother will find credible? Me, her devoted husband, or her unappreciative kid brat?" Though I tried to keep my head down and avoid confrontation, it was getting intolerable. My mental health was failing and I couldn't concentrate on my academics. I was depressed and concerned all the time as my grades began to slide. Several times I called my mother to let her know what was occurring, but she always appeared preoccupied and advised me to sort it out with Mark. Her voice sounded stressed about her new employment, and I didn't want to aggravate her problems. About 2 months into my mother's absence, one evening things got out of control. Covering a sick colleague, I had been working late at my job. When I got home late, I contacted Mark to let him know. But when I got there he was waiting for me, enraged. He accused me of lying, of doing drugs or running afoul of the law. He labeled me useless and declared he was bored with having me around when I tried to explain. Driven by a flash of wrath, he seized a box containing old pictures, my dad's watch, and school keepsakes and threatened to toss them. I begged him to stop, and in the struggle the box dropped and its contents spilled over the floor. Mark topped me as I hurried to gather my things. "This ends now," he snarled. "I will throw you out myself. I want you out of my house by tomorrow." That was the final straw. I knew I couldn't stand it anymore. I packed a bag with basics and departed in the middle of the night once Mark turned in for sleep. After a few days of crashing at my best friend's house, I discovered a small room to rent using part-time job savings. I didn't notify my mother right away since I wanted to spare her from stress and compromise her employment possibility. When she returned, I reasoned I would explain everything. Mark began sending me frightening notes that he would phone the police and report me as a runaway should I not return, so I blocked his number. 1 month now, and I'm getting by on my own. It's not easy. I'm trying to keep up with school while working extra hours to pay for basic needs including rent. Though I hardly eat some days, it's still better than living under Mark's roof. Though I feel bad about leaving without telling my mother, I also feel as though I had little option. Stress and continual fear were breaking me. So Reddit, am I the moron for leaving the house of my stepfather while my mother was overseas? Should I have pushed more to make things work? Should I get in touch with my mother right now and clarify everything? I'm lost and would much benefit from any guidance. Edit. I appreciate your replies, everybody. Having perused them, I value your help. Many of you have inquired about my housing circumstances and future intentions. I came into a modest studio apartment through a buddy of a friend right now. Though I can hear every movement my neighbors make and the plumbing is erratic, it's safe and reasonably priced. To pay for things, I'm part-time instructing online and working at a nearby diner. Regarding education, I am in my senior year and set to graduate. My school counselor has been in contact with me on my circumstances and has been quite helpful in ensuring I remain on target. Others of you advised getting in touch with other relatives. Sadly, my grandma died a few years ago and my mom was an only kid. After his death, my dad's side of the family lost contact with us. Hence, for the past few years, Mark, my mother and I basically have been the only ones in touch. When my mother gets back, I'm not sure how to handle things. Though another part of me wants to tell her everything, I am afraid she won't believe me or will start to side with Mark once more. When I visit the bridge, I suppose I'll cross it. Right now my priorities are finishing school and keeping afloat. Again, thank you everyone for your wise counsel and polite comments. Update 1. After my first post 6 months ago, a lot has happened. I wanted to let everyone know about current affairs. Last week, my mother got back from a work trip overseas. Though I was anxious about meeting her, I also looked forward to at last clarifying all that had happened with Mark. Still, events did not go as I had intended. The day she returned, I got her on the line. Her voice was icy and hostile, not at all the gentle, caring tone I was accustomed to. She insisted on knowing whether it was accurate that I had fled with money taken from Mark. Startled and perplexed, my mind flew to try to figure out where this charge originated. I tried to describe what actually happened. How Mark had been verbally nasty. How he had threatened to kick me out, and how I left for my own safety and mental health. I informed her about the episode involving my box of personal items and about how Mark had made every day she was gone awful. Still, my mother would not pay attention. She insisted non-stop that Mark had shown her proof of my theft. She was evasive when I asked what proof, mentioning missing money and dubious bank activity. I assured her I had never taken anything in my life. It was all falsehoods. She appeared to have her opinion already formed, even though I reminded her of how honest I had always been with her and how hard I had worked at my part-time job to help the house. To enable us to have a face-to-face conversation, I pleaded with her to meet personally. She accepted under some coaxing, but Mark was with her when we met at a neighborhood cafe. My heart dropped the minute I saw him. Though he looked sad, I could see the triumphant gleam in his eyes. Mark presented me with a show of worry and disappointment. He concocted a story about how he had tried his best to look after me while my mom was away, but that I had grown rebellious and begun pilfering money to pay for a party life. He discussed how he had spotted strange withdrawals from their joint account and how he would have noticed cash missing from his wallet. I stumbled. Though he told it so convincingly, every word he spoke was a lie. He even claimed to have fictitious bank records and invoices proving I had been taking money. Though I'm not sure how he made them, they appeared real enough to mislead my mother. He discussed his attempts to approach me about it, but I had fled instead of dealing with the fallout. I tried furiously to explain my side of the narrative and defend myself. I described how I'd been struggling to make ends meet in my tiny apartment and how I'd been working extra shifts to help myself. I mentioned to them the evenings I would have gone to bed hungry as I cannot afford rent as well as food. I begged my mother to remember how I had always been conscientious with money. How I had never given her any cause to question me before. But Mark had obviously been working on my mother for several weeks prior to her comeback. Her belief of me as a troubled, unappreciative child who had seized advantage of her absence was shaped by his poisoning of her against me. He presented himself as the victim, a worried stepfather limited to helping his wayward stepson. Seeing the sight of disappointment and wrath in my mother's eyes was the worst of it. She said she had trusted me to behave while she was away and she couldn't believe I would treat her this way. She accused me of trying to assign blame and fabricating falsehoods about my loving stepfather when I tried to explain about Mark's behavior. Her voice breaking, "How could you do this to us?" she asked. "We gave you everything, this is how you reimburse us?" Her comments ripped right through, each one like a physical blow. Her own son Mark seemed to me incomprehensible as she believed him over me. My mother informed me at the meeting that she wanted time to consider what to do going forward. If she didn't trust me, she stated she cannot have me back in the house. I watched Mark comfort my mother by putting his arm around her shoulders as they exited the eatery. I got queasy looking at it. I kept trying to get in touch with my mother throughout the next few days, hoping she would listen to me free from Mark's influence. She either answered with brief, icy texts instructing me to quit lying and take accountability for my behavior or ignored my calls. I was quite hungry. Hoping they may be able to talk some sense into her, I contacted a few of Mom's friends. Alas, it appeared Mark had also gotten to them. They all told me how let down they felt of me. How they couldn't believe I would have stolen from my own household. My mother finally sent me a lengthy text message stating she had decided it would be better if I stayed away from home. She claimed she needed time to get through everything and that she felt rather let down in me. She advised me not to get in touch for a little while. I felt crushed. Along with losing my house, I had lost my mother, the one I considered to be always on my side. Mark had turned her against her own son by totally controlling her. The next several weeks blurted together. Trying to forget the huge void in my life where my family used to be, I pushed myself into work and education. Often lying awake at night, I struggled to fall asleep and found myself wondering what I could have said better to make my mother believe me. I replayed the talks in my mind. My grades began to slide once more, and I ran the danger of not graduating. It took a worried teacher dragging me aside to get me out of my slide back. She questioned what was wrong when she observed my alterations. Hesitantly at first, I told her all. She thought of me surprisingly. She assisted me in contacting a social professional and a school counselor capable of offering me tools and assistance. Their assistance allowed me to get back on track with my academics and even obtain some extra financial aid to cover living expenses. I'm now figuring out my next moves. Working as hard as I can to support myself, I am still in my little flat. I have contacted a few reliable teachers at the institution who have been encouraging and guiding me through independent finishing of high school. About the future, I'm terrified, angry and wounded. My mother's treachery aches especially, and there are days when the loneliness feels unbearable. But I also want to prove Mark mistaken and show my mother the truth at last. Though I have not given up hope totally, I am not sure if our connection will ever be the same. Right now, I'm mostly planning for college and finishing off high school. Though it won't be simple, I am resolved to lead a better life for myself whether or not my family supports it. I appreciate your support of my original post everywhere. I would really appreciate any guidance on how one might go from here. How might I recover from this betrayal? When I feel so alone, how can I design a life for myself? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 2, 5 years later. My last update 5 years ago, and my life has altered drastically. I wanted to let others know what had happened and obtain some viewpoint on a most recent development. After high school, I threw myself into my education and job. Though I still felt the loss of my family hard, I turned that suffering into will. Majoring in computer science, I secured a scholarship at a state institution. I balanced several part-time jobs to make ends meet. Freelancing web design, working at the university library, and even weekend pizza delivery. Though it was demanding, college also released me. Living with Mark, I felt free from the continual anxiety and terror that had dogged me for the first time in years. To help me through the pain of my past, I began visiting a therapist and befriended people who grew to be like family. After graduating with honors, I found work directly out of college at a bright tech startup. Though I worked long hours and under great pressure, the work was challenging and I loved that challenge. Being appreciated for my work ethic and abilities felt fantastic, something I hadn't lately experienced. I have ascended in the company during the last 3 years. Originally a junior developer, the higher-ups were drawn to my commitment and creative ideas. Within a year, I was elevated to team lead. Lately, I was assigned lead developer for our primary offering. Our startup recently attracted a sizable investment, which sent us into the major tech industry ranks. Along with stock options that might be quite valuable should the business keep expanding, this brought a sizable pay rise for me. For the first time in my life, I am comfortable as well as financially steady. Along with moving into a decent apartment and even beginning to save money for the future, I bought my first car. I never spoke with Mark or my mother during this period. Particularly during holidays and events like my college graduation and career promotions, it was difficult. There were evenings when I would lie awake wondering whether my mother ever considered me, whether she ever regretted choosing Mark above me. But I concentrated on starting a new life for me and assembling a selected family including mentors and close friends. Out of the blue last week, I got a call from an unidentified number. My response caused a hush, then I heard a voice I hadn't heard 5 years ago. Mom was it. Her voice sounded worn out and desperate, nothing like the confident, loving mother I knew from my early years. She informed me Mark and she were having money problems. Mark apparently had some poor investments, and their property was about to go under foreclosure. Mark has been unemployed for the past year since his company he worked for filed for bankruptcy. They were drowning in debt after devouring their savings. My mother said she was sorry for all that had transpired years ago. Her voice broke as she said she had come to see Mark had controlled her over time. She admitted she had been carrying guilt for years and she regretted not trusting me. She asked whether we might get together to try to heal our relationship and to go over things. I froze. I had dreamed of this for years, my mother recognizing the truth and reaching out to re-establish contact. Now that it was occurring though, I experienced a rush of emotions, optimism, resentment, grief, and residual betrayal. After a protracted silence, I decided to see her at a cafe, the same one where we had our confrontation 5 years earlier. It startled me to find Mark and my mother there when I got there. With her grayed hair and worried lined face, my mother seemed older and exhausted. Mark's shoulders dropped and his eyes downcast suggested he had lost the cocky air he formerly possessed. More specifically, they said they were months behind on their mortgage payments and that the bank threatened to seize their residence. When his company closed, Mark lost his career. Even now, he has struggled to find consistent employment. Teacher pay for my mother was insufficient to pay living expenses and debt. I observed as they spoke the dynamic between them had altered. Often breaking off or correcting Mark, my mother looked more forceful. Mark, on the other hand, seemed subdued, a far cry from the dominant man I recalled. The true reason they reached out was to ask whether I might provide them loans to enable them to get back on their feet. Having heard through mutual friends about my achievements in the tech sector, they thought I would be in a position to be of use. Sitting there, I listened to their appeal and experienced a range of feelings. Part of me felt vindicated. Years ago Mark had lied and exploited the circumstances, and at last they were owning this. Another side of me, though, was resentment at their only outreach when they required something from me. Mom grabbed my hand in hers across the table. Tears in her eyes. "I know we don't deserve your help," she added. "We are desperate even though what we did to you was awful. We have nowhere else to turn." Mark joined in, his voice missing the assurance it had previously possessed. "I know you have every cause to hate me," he continued. "I treated you cruelly. I let everything be poisoned by my insecurity and jealousy. Though I am really sorry for what I did, I am not asking for pardon." Their apologies set off past hurts and memories. I considered the lonely evenings in my small apartment, battling poverty. I recalled the sense of betrayal when my own mother decided to accept a falsehood instead of her son's reality. I told them I needed time to consider it once they had finished speaking and inhaled deeply. I promised nothing when I left the cafe. Their begging gaze trailed after me. I'm divided now. One hand, I have worked hard for my accomplishment and I do not believe I owe them anything based on their treatment of me. Mark's falsehoods ruined my bond with my mother and drove me to fend for myself when young. Part of me wants to turn away and let them deal with the results of their behavior. Still, even with everything, I worry about my mother. Though I worry that if I assist her, I would be exposing myself to more manipulation or demands of continuous support. The idea of her being homeless or struggling hurts my heart. The way this could affect my own financial stability worries me as well. I'm not sure whether I could afford to save them without sacrificing my own future, even if right now I'm doing great. The startup scene is erratic, hence my present success is not sure to last. One more issue is forgiveness. Can I really get beyond what transpired? After such a great betrayal, is it possible to repair a relationship with my mother? And then regarding Mark. Can I ever trust him or have him back in my life even as he apologies? Unable to decide, I have been debating these questions for the past week. I discussed it with my closest friends and even mentioned it in a session with my therapist. Though everyone has different ideas, finally they all say the same: it is my decision to make. Part of me is driven to be a great person and offer an olive branch of support. Perhaps this is the first step toward mending past hurts and reconstructing my relationship with my mother. Another side of me, meanwhile, is terrified of subjecting myself to the suffering I have so battled once more. So on Reddit, I find myself wondering once more. Am I bad if I refuse to assist my mother and stepdad financially following all that has happened? Should I provide them another chance or guard the life I have created or myself? I could really appreciate some outside view because I find myself at a crossroads. My husband made me stop believing in soulmates. Now, after 15 years, he's finally opened up and strengthened our love even more. My husband made me believe soulmates aren't real. I am using a different account so that my husband doesn't know. Before meeting my current husband, I was married to my ex-husband Dave. Dave and I met when we were 5 years old. He moved into our neighborhood when he was 5. He was this cute boy next door. We became inseparable. Even our parents joked that when we would be adults we would be married. Ever since I knew the concept of marriage, I was determined that I would marry Dave. We were like soulmates. We had the same interests, the same hobbies, the similar thoughts. He was my first everything. My first kiss, my first boyfriend. The guy I lost my virginity to. Among our friends we were the perfect couple. After graduating high school, we immediately got married. I got into a good school, but I decided to study with Dave. We got married right after we finished high school. Our parents helped us find an apartment closer to our school. We worked hard. We would often talk about having kids. On our 6th anniversary we decided that we would try for a baby next year. I still remember the day when we were teenagers and cuddling. We already decided what our babies' names would be. During our 7th year of marriage, my mom got sick, so I had to stay with her for a while. I was planning to do something special for our 7th year anniversary. So I left early to surprise him. I went to my bedroom and there I saw my husband fucking another girl in our marital bed. I can never get that image out of my head. My husband saw me and his face turned pale. I don't know what happened but I threw up right in the spot. My husband was giving me the usual "it's not what it looks like, I am sorry. It was a mistake." I locked myself in the bathroom. I somehow mustered my strength and called my friend to pick me up and just don't listen to Dave. When my friend arrived she charged at Dave. She grabbed some of my things and we left. I was in a catatonic stage at that point. Eventually my parents knew. They supported whatever decision I would make. Dave's parents however wanted us to be together. There was a huge fight but eventually we settled for divorce. My whole fairy tale fantasy just shattered. I was spiraling into depression. My parents booked me for therapy. For 2 years I was like a living corpse. After that my friend pushed me to go on a date. I did but no one even came close to Dave. I was searching for Dave in every guy. But they all failed to live up to the expectation. That is when I met my now husband Jay. Jay was the opposite of Dave. Dave was funny, he would be the life of the party. I remember one time he made me laugh so hard that I fell from my chair. But Jay was not funny like Dave. He would use humor only as clapbacks and if he wants to insult someone. He was also very stoic and closed off. Pretty boring to my taste. On our first date, I asked him some questions like what is your favorite movie? He told me he doesn't watch movies. He likes reading? He didn't even ask me a thing. Except for my educational background. He talked mostly about my field of work. But he was not interested in me. We ate dinner in silence. I was 100% sure he would not call me. But 2 days later he did. He asked me out on a second date. I was skeptical of whether or not I should go. But my friend insisted. I gave it another try. Second date went slightly better than the first. He talked a bit more. Asked a few questions. We were taking it slow. He was opening up until the 6th date when he finally hooked up. TMI. It was amazing. I am someone who has a snack after having sex. I was craving for some, so I asked him if I could grab something from his pantry. Even a bread and cheese sandwich will do. He told me to stay there and he went out. I was kinda confused. He came back after 20 minutes with takeout food. It was something I really liked, orange chicken. I asked how he knew. He told me, "You told me on our previous date." I melted right there. Dave and I have been together for most of my life, but he never made the effort of going out and get me something. That's when I knew even if he was not my soulmate, I was madly in love with him. We dated for 3 years and got married. I came to know about Jay's family too. His mom and dad were drug addicts who died of overdose. He was homeless for a while but worked his way up. Throughout our marriage I was very, very happy. He was different from Dave because whenever he would see me doing chores he would ask, "Need help?" He helped me through my trauma from Dave by arranging a therapist that specializes in infidelity. He may not be a person of words, but his actions tell me that he loves me. When I was pregnant with our daughter, I would wake him up in the middle of the night to either get me food or rub my feet. He would say, "Yes, ma'am," and get to work. I love him. Even after 15 years of marriage, my love has not stopped. He is still the stoic man I fell in love with. After meeting him, I stopped believing in the concept of a soulmate. He was not mine, but we somehow made it work. I love you, Jay. Thanks for being there in my life. And anyone who is wondering what happened to Dave, he is getting his 3rd divorce. His mom blames me for his downfall, but she refuses to see that her son cheated on his every marriage. Edit. I am sorry if there was any typing mistake. I am typing on my phone and the autocorrect is acting nuts. I tried to turn it off but it didn't work. Relevant comments. Commenter. Who knows, maybe Jay is your soulmate. He seems to be more ideally suited to you from the beginning than Dave ever was. OOP. From the outside we do not look like soulmates. Dave and I were the typical girl next door and boy next door kind of people. Jay was more closed off. Initially when I was dating him he was really rude in my opinion. He also has a bad temper towards people who screw up. But other than that he is good and kind. He helps those who genuinely need help. Commenter. After reading this, all I can say is fuck Dave, metaphorically, and fuck Jay, literally, in several positions, then have a nice dessert. I'm glad to hear you are happy. Hope you, Jay, and your kids, have many, many more happy years ahead of you. OOP. Fuck Jay, literally, in several positions, then have a nice dessert. I have been doing that for 18 years, lol. And he still gets me snack. Commenter. His mom blames me for his downfall. Because it can't be the fault of her fucking child being an immoral, faulty human being, could it? I am poly. I have a different attitude to sex around a relationship. But promises are promises regardless. Commitment is commitment no matter what flavor, and Dave is clearly emotionally incomplete. I never believed in soulmates, from childhood. But you know when it works, when it's right, you just had to have a trial marriage to refine your definition. OOP. According to his mom, he was devastated when I wanted divorce. She tried to convince me to stay with him even after knowing he cheated. She was angry at me and my parents when I said no. She blames me because she thinks that if I had stayed, her son would not have become a serial cheater because I could fix him. His other marriage failed because he was a mess because of me. Not because he was fucking other people on the side. Commenter. Dave was never your soulmate. Jay was. Just took time to find him. OOP. When I asked Jay about if he believes in soulmates, he told me, "I don't believe that crap. It's just like a horoscope. People believe in it because it makes them feel better. A lot of potential good relationships get broken because of this crap." I was kinda devastated that he doesn't believe in soulmates. Can you believe in these 18 years, we have only said I love you only 5 times as far as I can count. I want to say it more. I said I love you to my husband after 5 years. My husband, 47M, and I, 46F, have been together for 18 years and married for 15. My husband is not the type who always shows his feelings. He is very stoic, smiles on very few occasions, and maintains a routine. Some even say that he is a robot. But I don't think so. I am someone who is very outgoing and completely the opposite of him. Before I was married to him, I was married to someone else who cheated on me. I used to say I love you a lot in my first marriage. But after my divorce, I had some sort of aversion to those words. Over the last 18 years, we have said I love you only 5 times. First time was when we were dating, second was on our wedding day, third and fourth when our daughter and son were born, and the fifth was 5 years ago on Christmas when we were really tipsy because of the drinks. I wrote a post about how I met him and how we got together, but it made me realize that we haven't said I love you to each other for a long time. But it didn't bother me. Even if he never said it, he always shows that he loves me in his actions. He does chores for me, he would always give me a foot massage, make me my favorite dish, even kiss me out of the blue. I do not have any complaints. He is the best husband anyone could ever ask for. But this was something that has been in the back of my mind for a while. We cuddle, we hang out, we make love, but still no I love yous. I would love to hear it and say it more often, but somehow it just makes me nervous. I decided to buckle up and just say it. It's just 3 words. So yesterday when he was reading a book on the couch, I stood in front of him and said, I love you. He looked at me and was confused. I repeated it. For the first time, I could see him get flustered. He told me okay. I was a little disappointed by his response. I thought he just didn't love me anymore. Later that night when I was lying down, he came to our bedroom and told me that he was sorry for his response. That it caught him off guard. He told me that he loves me a lot. And not even a day goes by that he doesn't feel lucky to have me in his life. I was tearing up. That was better than my confession. I asked him why we don't say that often. He told me that he doesn't say it because throughout his entire life no one has said it to him except for me. His parents were drug addicts who cared less for him. He had to start working at 14. He grew up in hardships, so saying I love you is weird for him. But also he feels like we didn't have to tell each other when we express it with our actions way more. I told him I want to say it more now and want him to say it back if that's okay with him. I saw him smile for a while and he said it is fine as long as I want it. I don't think we need to say it when we know we love each other a lot. We will probably stop saying it after a few days and go back to our mundane events LOL. A lot of you people have been asking me and personally messaging me about Jay's upbringing and how he managed to survive. Well, I am not sure if I'm the right person to talk about his personal life. I mean, I heard some parts which really made me cry. Therefore, I will try to summarize it. So my husband Jay is an only child. His mom and dad were from a poor family. They were drug addicts. His household was a mess. He remembers his father pushing him down the stairs when he was like 8. Jay mostly grew up with his grandfather, his mom's dad. As far as I know, his mom was not allowed to come to his grandfather's house. Jay mostly spent his weekdays at his house. His mom and dad didn't care. They were always high and had odd visitors. His grandfather taught him a lot of things. Like handling tools, woodwork, electric repair stuff. Ever since he was little, with some advice from his grandfather, he learned that his parents are very useless. He has to survive on his own. All they know is how to do drugs and invite people to have group sex. He started doing odd jobs like dog sitting, car and window washing, gardening. He also tutored from time to time. Shortly after, his parents died of overdose. He became a permanent resident of his grandfather's house. He worked so that he could afford to go to college. His grandfather had little money for him. But it wasn't enough. He thought about joining the army at 18, but he failed the physical test. When he was 17, his grandfather died of a heart attack. His grandfather lived in a rented house, so Jay couldn't live there anymore. He was forced to live in a homeless shelter throughout his high school. He even got bullied and got in trouble for standing up for his bullies. But since he was a good student, he didn't face serious repercussions. He left the homeless shelter when a pastor from their local church took him in. He knew Jay because he worked in the church for a while. The pastor was a nice guy. He funded his living and also helped him get a scholarship to a good university. Jay studied finance and business. His entire childhood, he lived in poverty. So he was obsessed with learning how to make money. He made some connections which landed him a good part-time job during his final year. I met Jay through my friend. She worked in the same company as him. He worked as an investment banker at the time. And the rest you all know. This is pretty much it. I understand why he is so stoic and doesn't show his emotions. I once asked out of curiosity that he saw the harsh reality of life but still how he manages to stay good. He once told me about this couple whose children he used to tutor. They were a really happy family in his eyes. The husband loved his wife. He mentioned that the husband would always have a hand on his wife's body as a form of affection. Their children were also well behaved and had a good childhood. From that moment he knew he wanted a family like that. because he never had a complete family. But he was sure that somebody would not be able to love him because he doesn't know how to show love. Throughout his entire childhood he has only seen his parents fight and cheat on each other in front of each other. That really destroyed his perception of love. If it wasn't for that couple, he probably wouldn't believe that there are people in this world who can love each other for life. It is a little wrong of me to say he displays no emotions. He does, but on rare occasions. I remember the day our daughter was born. Jay held her and cried loudly. He kept repeating, "I will protect you. I will never leave you." He did say "I love you" to both me and her. Same thing happened when our son was born. I mean, it gave me an idea to just pop out babies so that I can see his emotional face, haha. But anyways, I know he does love me and our little family. He always holds me tight whenever we are cuddling. He is really good with my parents. My parents also adore him. Sometimes, it just makes me cry knowing that he has been through a lot and I have lived such a sheltered life. Sometimes, I feel like I don't deserve him because he is very kind and a good person. Also, yeah, we do say "I love you" a lot more now. Final update. I just wanted to give big thanks to everyone who has been kind and supportive. I cannot imagine that so many people will come through because of my post. A lot of you suggested therapy. I did in the past, but my husband brushed it off by saying his past rarely bothers him. Thanks to people on Reddit, I suggested to him some articles on PTSD and childhood trauma. He studied for a bit and found a therapist for him to help him with his trauma. He only had 2 sessions till now. Few days ago he came home from work and I went to greet him like usual. He pulled in for a big hug and started sobbing. I told him it's okay. We went to our bedroom where we sat down and talked. He told me that he was sorry for being so ice cold all these years. He opened up more and said he was afraid to confront his demons, so he just kept them back in his head. He had trouble expressing how he felt. He felt guilty that he didn't say he loves more often. I am just paraphrasing what he told me. I love you with all my heart. I know I don't say it, but I feel it every day and every moment. I am sorry for taking away all those years from you, for not expressing my love for you. Words cannot express what you actually mean to me. You gave me my kids, made my house a home. I never had that growing up. I always wanted that and you made it happen. I am sorry that I was so cold and never said I love you more. Because I do. I love you a lot. I want to make it up to you. I don't want to waste another second of my life burying those emotions anymore. It feels good to see him vulnerable for the first time in his life. I cried with him that night. We talked a lot about our marriage and the times we spent together. It was a real bonding experience. From that day on he has been really attentive towards me. He would always come home as early as possible to simply have more time with me. We cuddle a lot and also make love. Except this time it feels new and different. Like a newfound love. He has been saying "I love you" to my kids. My son is confused and my daughter just said, "Dad, you're weird." He is thinking about planning a trip for just the 2 of us because it has been really long since we had gone on a trip alone. So thanks to Reddit. You gave me a new version of my husband and probably strengthened my marriage with him. Not that there were problems, but I hope my husband would not be so haunted by his demons now. I got fired for accidentally being an asshole to the company owner's disabled daughter. This happened on Friday. I've been drowning my sorrows all weekend, dreading the fact I have to start looking for a new job. Explaining why I got fired from my old job is going to be fun. I'm typing it up here to try and organize my thoughts in my head, because right now, it's all a mess. I had been with the company for 3 months and was still on orientation. My job was sales advertising. As the new guy, I was given existing accounts to manage, which consisted of providing customer service and convincing my clients to spend more money on advertising. All of these accounts already had their ad campaigns done, and if they wanted something new, the account was transferred to a senior account manager who would work with our advertising guys to put something together for the customer. Eventually, I hoped to have that job, but I had to pay my dues by proving I could maintain existing accounts and convince them to spend more money first. Everything was going great, until last week, when we were scheduled to have our quarterly retreat. Since we were the main regional office in the area, all of the employees from the satellite locations came to our office for the retreat. The owner of the company rarely visits our office. He's been overseeing the setup of a new satellite office for the last year, according to my coworkers. But he was there for the retreat, as was his disabled daughter, Amy. Not her real name for the sake of privacy. One of my coworkers told me Amy works at one of the satellite offices and I probably wouldn't have much interaction with her, but I should be nice. That seemed like a no-brainer. I'm nice to everyone regardless. I won't claim to be an expert on Amy's disability, but it seemed like she had childlike mannerisms and struggled with expressing herself. She also had some problem with motor skills. I'll describe the only interaction I had with her prior to the incident. I went to refill my coffee and Amy was in front of me, getting her coffee. I watched her struggle with getting condiments added and putting the lid on, so I politely asked if she needed any help. She thanked me, said she did, and let me finish making it. While I was making it, she said she hated coffee, but her dad made her drink it because she had to, in a loud voice, always alert. I smiled, said that was definitely important, and handed her the cup. She thanked me again and went back to the office her dad was using, where she had been most of the day. I felt like I had been a good Samaritan and went on my way. Most of the retreat is team-building exercises. Prior to the incident, Amy only participated in the puzzle race, where groups put puzzles together without the box art to see which team can finish faster. Amy wasn't in my group, so I didn't have any interaction with her there. Neither of our teams won. The big event, and the one that everyone seemed the most excited for, was the last activity of the day. Our boss gave us a list of potential clients. We were supposed to select 3 as a group, and put together something to attract the customer. We were told we would be judged on our creativity. My group explained that we could do pictures, slogans, jingles, whatever we wanted. Each person expected to work on one individually, then work with their group to polish it up before it was presented to everyone. It was kind of a big deal because at previous retreats, there would be clients on the list the owner was already close to bringing on board, and if you impressed the owner, you might just land that account. I went with a jingle, rhymed a few words, and recorded it. It was silly but fit the brand. My group gave me some pointers, we made some improvements, and I recorded the final product for submission. I helped my team with their projects until it was time to turn everything in. After everything was turned in, we gathered in the big conference room to critique each other. The owner went through them one by one. If it was a picture or storyboard, he'd put it up, read it, and we'd make comments. Good or bad. There were some that were great, which drew a lot of compliments, and some that were really bad, which we laughed about as a group. You could tell the senior account managers didn't care much about the exercise or put much effort into their pitches. Nobody seemed to get upset or offended, regardless of the feedback. When my jingle was played, it got a lot of comments, not all of them good, and I took the feedback with a smile. After getting my feedback, I felt a little more comfortable about sharing my thoughts on other presentations. I gave what I thought was valuable feedback to a few products, laughed at a couple others, and then a rather crude drawing was put up for the exact same company I had chosen. I immediately joked that, well, at least my jingle was better than that. Did a 3-year-old draw it? And laughed. To absolute silence. I was really confused because plenty of people had made jokes and everyone laughed. Instead, a few people looked at me like I was disgusting and the owner said, well, if you don't have anything nice to say, keep it yourself maybe? Then my boss scooted down to where I was sitting and told me I needed to go to my desk. Now, I noticed as I was gathering my things that the owner's daughter was red-faced and starting to tear up. The team-building exercise was over for me. I went back to my desk and it began to sink in that the drawing must have been drawn by the owner's daughter. There was no warning or anything. The owner didn't reveal who put together what we were looking at until after a few critiques. Maybe I should have known. Everyone was joking and having fun up to that point. Someone else had a pretty bad drawing that got laughed at. Either way, I felt awful. As soon as the event was over, I approached my boss to apologize. He told me to wait for him in his office. Long story short, I was fired. My boss said since I was still on orientation, he had decided I wasn't a good fit for the company, so it was better to let me go now. He didn't outright say I was being fired for making fun of her drawing, but that's literally the only thing that I've ever gotten in trouble for. My work, up until that point, had been praised. I didn't get much time to process it because my boss had already called security, who showed up fairly quickly, and escorted me to my desk to gather my things before escorting me out of the building. An hour later, I got a call from one of my former teammates, who asked if I wanted to join the team for a drink one last time. They needed it after the retreat, and felt bad that they didn't warn me. I wasn't feeling up for it, but I wanted to try and make sense of the whole situation. So I went to the bar. In the back of my mind, I was thinking that since I'm about to start looking for a new job, a few references from former coworkers wouldn't be bad since I definitely won't be getting one from my boss or the owner of the company after everything that happened. The team explained that Amy comes to all of these retreats, and she always does some crude drawing like that. Everyone just sort of knows to say nice things about it and move on. One of my teammates said that once you've seen one of her drawings, you know what to look for. Well, I didn't, and nobody warned me. I started to get pretty upset that this was a known thing and everyone knew but me, but what could I do? I had already fucked up and it cost me my job. The team also shared more about Amy. Apparently she works at one of the satellite offices but doesn't really do anything. The people in charge of the office try to come up with stuff for her to do because she gets upset when she's bored. The team said the way the people who worked there described it, they were basically her babysitter, so she wouldn't bother her dad all day when he spent most of his time there, and after he moved on to establish the new satellite office, he didn't take Amy with him because she liked all the friends she had at that office. They also said that her dad had harassed a few single guys at the office to take her on dates, which seemed pretty damn HR inappropriate, but he does own the company. My team said Amy desperately wants a boyfriend and wants to get married, which she talks about all the time. The consensus seemed to be that there's no way she actually understands how relationships or marriage works, and her dad probably put this idea in her head to begin with. One of my teammates did joke that it wasn't a bad deal, because whoever married her would inherit the company since she is the old man's only kid. I wasn't really in the mood for jokes at that point after losing my job over one, so I told them I needed to go. The only good thing is my former team members did say they would gladly give me a reference if I needed it, since they felt so bad about not telling me about the Amy situation to begin with. Oh, and the cherry on top. Amy sent me a Facebook friend request over the weekend. I haven't accepted it. I already upset her and it cost me my job. Part of me wants to accept it, apologize, and block her, but I'm not sure I'm ready for that either. I'm going to take a few days to get myself together and then get my resume out there. Edit. After reading all of the replies, including quite a few DMs, and talking with a close friend, I've decided that I'm going to accept the friend request. I'll do an update if there's any sort of conversation. I plan to open with an apology. If she replies, great. If she doesn't, then at least I will have a clear conscience knowing I've done the right thing. Update. If you saw my first post, you know that I got fired because I accidentally made a joke at the expense of the company owner's disabled daughter, Amy. During the last team building event of the day, we were pitching ideas for accounts, which included everything from jingles, my pitch, to storyboards to slogans to drawings. A lot of senior account managers were phoning it in and people were making jokes about their work, which had a lot of people laughing. I got some jokes about my pitch and got a little overconfident, so when a crude drawing went up for the same account I did my jingle for, I made a joke about it. The joke was, well, at least my jingle was better than that. Did a 3-year-old draw it? My joke was met with stone-cold silence and a very negative reaction from the owner of the company. What my coworkers had failed to tell me was that Amy usually submits a crude drawing, which is a lot of work for her due to her issues, and everyone knows to say a few nice things and move on. I was new and wasn't informed, so my ignorance and inappropriate response cost me my job. After meeting with my team at a bar to begin the process of drowning my sorrows, I got a friend request from Amy on Facebook. That brings us to the update. First of all, thank you to everyone who made me laugh. The first time someone joked about me accepting the friend request, marrying Amy, and taking my revenge by inheriting the company made me uncomfortable. By the third time I saw it mentioned, I couldn't help but laugh. A lot of you gave me good advice. I appreciate those who talked about legal action and what options I had. Unfortunately, I was still on orientation with my company, which is like a probationary period. During that time, they can let me go for any reason. They could fire me for wearing the wrong color socks if they wanted. I had to sign an agreement to get employed which stated I understood this. There's literally nothing I can do, legally. At the end of the day, I decided to go have some drinks with a good friend, talk things out and see what he would do. Dave's been my best friend since we were in elementary school. We've probably spent more time together than some actual brothers. Dave was firmly on the side of accept the friend request, apologize, and clear your conscience, man. I'm getting us another round of shots. He knows me better than anyone, and he knows that the guilt would eat me alive. I posted it here because it bothered me. I decided to take his advice, and everyone here who pushed me for that as well, especially the ones that DM'd me. So that's what I did. I accepted the friend request. I immediately messaged Amy. I said I shouldn't have made that joke about anyone's work, it was unprofessional, and I was sorry. It took her a while to respond, but when she finally did, she thanked me for my apology, but said she sent me the request because she wanted to apologize since I lost my job over it. I said she didn't owe me an apology, and there was another long pause before she asked if she could copy-paste something to me. I wasn't sure what it was, but said she could. She pasted a generic message, but one she had clearly spent some time on. I don't want to type it word for word, but I'll paraphrase. Hi, my name is Amy. Please forgive me if I'm slow to respond to you. I suffered a brain injury when I was a little girl and it takes me a while to type things out. There was more to it, but that's the basic stuff. I responded, saying it was not a problem and she could take all the time she needed. Amy and I ended up messaging back and forth until almost 3 a.m. No, we didn't fall in love. We aren't going on a date. I'm not going to marry her for revenge so I can take her dad's company. However, I do think I would like to be friends with her. Not because I feel bad for her, but because she's a genuinely nice person and honestly, everyone could use a few friends like that. We spent a lot of time talking about her. That's just the direction it went, so I asked questions since she seemed comfortable talking about it. Amy was in a car accident when she was a kid. She was in the car with her mom and they were hit by a drunk driver, coming back from a birthday party for one of her classmates. Her mom didn't make it, and Amy suffered a brain injury that impacts her motor skills. Because it makes it difficult for her to speak and do simple things like getting dressed, making coffee, etc., people assume she's mentally challenged. She was put in special ed because of it, but worked really hard and graduated from high school. She even wanted to go to college, but her dad didn't think it was a good idea. Her life has been difficult because it's hard for her to communicate with people. By the time she can get a fully formed sentence out, the conversation is over. She can type, slowly, but most people don't want to type when they're face to face. She even admitted that when she's not at work, she will sometimes carry a tablet and pretend she's mute, because that's just easier. We eventually circled back to the drawing and my terrible response to it. She wasn't that offended by my response, because she assumed I didn't know. She got upset primarily, because she knew all hell was about to break loose and she had no way to communicate with anyone. She was so upset when she found out I got fired, and tried to talk to her dad, but he wouldn't listen to her. She's fully aware that a lot of people at the company just pretend to be nice to her because she's the owner's daughter, but she does have a few friends at the satellite office where she works who better understand her disability. She gets frustrated because she can't truly contribute anything, but is happy when they are able to find busy work for her to do. It might take her all day to do something another person could do in a couple of hours, but it's better than sitting around bored all day. She knows she's a burden and a bother to her dad when he's around, but he's her dad and she loves him. She wishes every single day she was a daughter he could be proud of, rather than a burden. She tries talking to him via emails and text messages, but he usually doesn't respond. If they're in the same location, he'll just walk over and respond verbally, which is frustrating, because it becomes a one-sided discussion with her unable to do anything but give simple one-word answers like yes or no. She also thanked me again for helping with her coffee. She said that when she was younger, she tried to do everything by herself, and would get mad when people helped her. But now she's learned to appreciate the few who do. Most just stand there and look away, pretending to patiently wait for her to do it on her own. It was getting late for both of us at that point. Really late. It takes her a long time to respond to messages. There's misspellings. I get why someone would assume she's mentally challenged. I myself referred to her in my first post as having childlike mannerisms, which was a misunderstanding on my part. When she tries to force words quickly or emphasize something, she gets really loud, which makes her sound like an excited toddler rather than an adult trying to have a conversation. We ended our talk last night agreeing to talk again sometime. She asked if I had watched the first episode of House of Dragon yet, which I have, and she asked if I'd like to talk about it after she watches it. I told her I'd love to. So that's it, that's the update. Sorry to those who expected me to steal her dad's company. I'm definitely not doing that. Talking to Amy did make me feel a lot better though. I don't know how I'm going to handle the whole firing thing at my next interview, but a few of you suggested I just leave a gap on my resume, and I may just do that. I doubt there will be any future updates, but at least this has a happier ending than my first post. TLDR, since a few asked for it in my first post. I lost my job, but I may have gained a friend. Edit, she loved House of Dragon. My parents canceled my 18th birthday to please my entitled sister, so I moved out with Grandpa, who then cut them off financially for good. Hello, I recently turned 18 a few days ago, but sadly my bratty elder sister insisted on my party being cancelled at the last minute, hence my parents cancelled it. I was very glad she wasn't even meant to be here for the celebration. But it's just my luck that strong Midwest storms caused all of the planes to be cancelled on the day she was scheduled to depart. 3 days before my birthday, she was meant to go to NYC with a group of pals, but for now they have had to postpone the trip. She has been rather offended over it, hence my parents have been walking on eggshells around her since they truly want to avoid aggravating her. She is the golden child of our family, hence they wouldn't dare, really. So much so, that she insisted my birthday be cancelled early on as, in her words, if she doesn't get to have fun, neither will I. Naturally, my parents sent the message to every single individual who had been invited without second thought. Much later in the evening, while I was eagerly waiting for all the visitors to arrive, but none were showing up, I discovered When I asked my parents at last why none had shown up even by 7 p.m., they informed me they had called off the celebration without even asking me. They claimed my sister was somewhat disturbed and felt it would be inappropriate to throw a party while she was in this state. At that point, I lost all control and began yelling at my folks. It seemed simply to be unfair. My sister had always received different treatment from my parents, who expected me to sacrifice all my life and meet her every demand more than my own. And I always had as well. This was, however, going much too far. My sister was complaining about a trip that was cancelled for legitimate reasons outside of anyone's control. Hence my parents had promised to plan my 18th birthday party, invited all of my friends and family so we could have a large birthday celebration, and now they had cancelled it without even notifying me. To exacerbate things, my parents had subtly informed every visitor that I had suddenly gotten ill, so I called off the party. Declaring I had a migraine and that using my phone was the last thing I needed, they asked that no one text me about it. Nobody texted me, hence I had no idea what was going on until the very last minute. I started fighting with my parents right away when they informed me what had transpired. Extremely offended as it wasn't my place to back down, I was yelling at them. Even then, their main worries were my being too noisy since they worried my sister would wake up from her nap. I kept yelling till my sister arrived downstairs, not giving a damn about that. Starting to defend our parents, she said they had done nothing illegal. She said that, as it would be cruel, she was the one who objected to everyone celebrating or partying while she was so distraught. She even said that I was the most entitled and spoiled person if I couldn't see that. Her utter arrogance following what she had done infuriated me to the point of me mindlessly starting to curse her. Things became physical as I grabbed her hair and tried to shake her. Our parents had to split us apart, and in the turmoil we missed the doorbell ringing. My parents opened the door to discover my grandfather waiting there after we at last stopped battling. Everyone in the family, including my parents, regards my paternal grandfather as a truly formidable force. Not great news for them was having him at the door. He began questioning why there was so much yelling and cursing as soon as he walked inside. Probably since I had been the loudest, he turned to me for responses. Usually, since it seemed petty, I wouldn't share with people the way my parents treated me, but I told my grandpa everything since this time I had nothing to lose. I told them I was unhappy with my parents and sister and that hiding the truth would not help them treat me any better, hence I saw no use in doing so anymore. It was time to stand up and I did. I also told him that I had dealt with my sister every day for the past 18 years, hence the bias toward her was not a one-time occurrence. But this episode was the last straw. I could not stand it anymore. My grandfather's expression was clearly shocked as soon as I spoke. He erupted at my father within seconds and started chastising him. It was then that I learned a lot of hitherto unknown facts. For the previous few years, my grandpa revealed he had been giving money to my parents every month since they had been trying to keep their business open and maintain the family. Basically, it was my grandfather who had been helping us all along, even covering the cost of the party my parents were ready to claim credit for. My grandfather chastised my parents for disappointing him with such treatment of me. From my conduct, he added, it was obvious that their devotion for my sister traumatized me. While my sister, being as stupid as ever, tried to argue with him, my parents silently let him talk. She said that her primary reason for requesting a cancellation of the party was her devastation at having her trip to New York, which she had been looking forward to for months, cancelled indefinitely. She said it was merciless of me to throw a celebration while she was in pain. But my grandfather did not have time for her lies. She was the perfect example of entitlement, he reminded her, cancelling my 18th birthday celebration only to suit her emotions. He told her the world did not revolve around her, and I believe it must have news value for her. My sister's argument with my grandfather infuriated him even more, and finally he informed my parents he would no longer be helping them. They were on their own now. Then he advised me to get ready and accompany him should I wish to move away, as obviously my parents only gave my sister top priority. The only thing my parents were offended about, even when my grandfather said this, was losing his financial backing. I was about to accept his offer, but they didn't seem to care that he volunteered to let me live with him. This merely confirmed what my grandfather said. They gave no damn about me. I thus wasted not a moment. While my parents tried to haggle and fight with my grandpa to keep his support, I walked upstairs. I hurriedly packed my belongings, then headed downstairs with my grandfather, who barely turned around one final time. He apologized to me for everything I had gone through as we were driving to his house. He remarked he ought to have done this long ago. Though I'm not sure exactly what that implies, I'm just rather happy to be living with him right now. My parents are the only ones dissatisfied with this arrangement, clearly. They have been assiduously attempting to reach me. Although I have not blocked them yet, I have not been answering their calls or messages either. Still, I have been reading their books. My parents continue to text me, apologize, and claim they lacked thoughtfulness. Since my sister was more delicate, and her emotions were more fragile, they acknowledge they always put her first. They now regret it as they never understood they were ignoring me in doing this. They worked very hard to give the impression that they were ignoring me simply because they felt I was strong enough to manage it. To be honest though, my sister is practically 5 years older than I am. And if anything, she ought to have been the one capable of sharing with our parents. I bought no single word from what my parents said. I understood they were just acting this way since Grandpa wanted me to return and enable him to keep supporting them. From them, all I wanted was one sincere apologies, yet it never came. It really began to irritate me. So this morning I told my father to stop texting me. I replied I didn't need their false apologies. I knew they were merely doing this to maintain Grandpa's support. I had finished working with them. When they canceled my birthday celebration without even asking me, they had told me just where their priorities lay. That was the straw shattering the camel's back. Today I was never returning. My dad responded instead of apologizing, saying he and my mother had mistreated me, but he was ready to set things right and do anything necessary. I seized the chance to explain to them that I would only agree to come back and discuss helping them if, and only if, my sister would no longer be living with us when I returned. They made a mistake by stating they were willing to do anything. She is 23 and has been working for the past 2 years. By now she should have accumulated enough money to move out. I thus don't even consider myself to be being so unfair, but my parents see me to be callous and silly. Now Ada for informing my parents that should my sister move out I will only be back in with them. You know, that kind of thing. My parents had always given her first attention. These little items added up even if they were trivial. Sadly, I never considered it sufficient enough to discuss with my relatives. Even if I had, I doubt it would have been justification for anybody wishing to have me taken away or offered to move out from. I simply remained quiet about it since else it would have infuriated my parents even more. Regarding my grandfather, I mentioned he is a force to be reckoned with since practically every member of the family loves and respects him. He had won numerous challenging cases and was among the greatest attorneys back in his day. Not to mention quite rich, he leads a very disciplined life and is quite morally pure. Clearly then, everyone in the family looks up to him. I could have told him how my parents were treating me if I had wanted to, but up until last year he was rather busy seeing my grandmother, who was nearing death. He was busy, and I wanted not to disturb him with my little grievances while he was already handling so much. He was grieving when my grandma went away, so I didn't believe it was worth mentioning. I am quite appreciative now that he is willing to assist me. Our connection has always been good, hence it is not shocking that he has volunteered to let me live with him until I start college. He has even informed me he will cover all of my college costs until I'm working. First update. Hello, hence I have decided to keep to the condition I proposed for my parents. Obviously, even if they kick my sister out, I have no intention of returning to live with them. I merely want to find out whether they really do it. That will reveal whether they really want me back or whether they believe my sister is more valuable than the financial support of my grandfather. I haven't told him anything about this, but to be fair, I recently learned of other things he had been hiding from me. I therefore believe it to be fair enough. I'm talking about the fact that my grandpa knew my parents didn't truly want me all along, but he had never taken anything about it. Actually, even if my sister lacked any traits that would justify her partial behavior, I never even knew exactly why my parents favored her. My grandfather recently told me that originally, my parents had just intended for one child. 5 years following my sister's birth though, my mother became pregnant with me. Although they intended to end the pregnancy, my dad made a mistake by alerting the parents of my mother about it. My mother's grandparents insisted that it would be inappropriate to turn away that gift should my parents be blessed with another child. They thus persuaded my parents to maintain the pregnancy. Sadly, while my mother was 8 months pregnant, my maternal grandparents were in a horrible vehicle accident. Both died from their wounds following several weeks of struggling for their lives. My mom was clearly heartbroken. During her pregnancy, she experienced a rather mental break whereby she began accusing me of bringing ill luck into her life. She spent a few weeks institutionalized, and when she returned she was quite improved. Still, my parents secretly felt bad about letting the pregnancy get this far. After I was born, they had every intention of having me adopted. But this time my paternal grandparents intervened. They forbade my parents from putting me up for adoption and told them they were crazy. Though they were reluctant, my parents raised me. When I challenged my grandfather about the comment he made when he took me back home, he told me all of this. Now I see what he meant when he said he ought to have done this long ago. I agree, He ought absolutely to have. In any case, I know I will never go back to my parents since I now know the truth about the reason they treated me differently. My present treatment of them is absolutely justified. For years, they punished me for something not under my control. At least I'm better than them since I'm punishing them for truly their fault. Though I still find my grandpa frustrating for not being honest sooner, I know these things are difficult to discuss, especially to a young child. Right now, he is the only person I can rely on. Thus I try not to get too enraged with him. But I felt bad about it when I spotted my sister waiting outside today following school. I so requested one of my male buddies to accompany me home. Being a football player, he is rather on the larger side, and I knew that if my sister did anything, he would be there to assist. We have been friends for a really long time, and I totally trust him. He is know-all, even specifics about my family. He agreed to stroll me back home. It was really starting to creep me out as my sister trailed silently. Halfway home I turned around to challenge her on what she was trying to do. She said she wouldn't want to chat in front of a stranger, but I told her I hardly wanted to chat with her at all. She then began telling me that my behavior has been the reason our parents have been really anxious and unhappy. She said yesterday that unless she was forced out of the house, our parents had at last warned her that I wouldn't come back home or even speak to my grandfather about helping them again. She thought I was being somewhat unjust, thus she came here to challenge me about it. I told her, if I can't be happy, neither can you, thinking it ludicrous of her to believe I would dignify this with a conversation. She used exactly the same reasoning to have my party called off, thus I reasoned it should also apply to her. She started yelling at me, calling me a vile human being, when I turned around to head home. I merely kept walking with my friend and turned her off. I never bothered to reply or look around. I suppose turning her off was what truly infuriated her, as shortly afterward, she attacked me and I was on the ground. I could feel her weight on my back as well as my own from my rucksack. Fortunately, my friend physically had my back since I sensed her being hauled off me in seconds. My companion was supporting her with one arm, hardly breaking a sweat as I at last got back on my feet and dusted myself. Knowing my sister's aggressive nature, I suppose I was right to have him walk me home. Her even belief she could attack me and get away with it infuriated me. I thus approached her, gave her a strong slap, and warned her that I would call the cops should she attempt anything humorous once more. I knew our beloved parents would not value any more drama, with all the turmoil she had already caused. She still had the arrogance to try and fight with me, but following that slap my friend and I turned away and she stopped following me. I told Grandpa all about it when I returned home. He was about to contact the police, but I told him it was not worth it, she was just a loser, and I knew she had learned her lesson. Besides, she was definitely already in a dangerous posture with our parents. When I eventually told my grandpa about the state I had created for my parents, I expected he would be offended, but instead he laughed alongside me. He felt it was clever and believed my parents deserved to be let run wild. That was that then. Though I'm a little hurt from being thrown to the ground, I feel good knowing I finally gave my sister some sense. She really deserved it, and it was a long time coming. I now simply hope my sister and parents leave me alone after learning this. Update 3. Hey, I moved out practically a month ago. I will only be staying with my grandpa for a few more months as September marks my beginning of college. Officially, school has ended right now. I graduated from high school a few days ago. The football player friend I described in my last report was my prom date. Indeed, several of you folks called it, and I wanted to share this joyful little nugget before delving into what transpired with my sister and parents. 2 days following my confrontation with my sister, I got a note from my parents. They claimed to have figured out their desired line of action. As I had always been envious and spiteful, they chose to let my sister stay with them since, in their eyes, I was obviously not the kind of person they wanted around her. My mother's older brother had chosen to be a partner and investor in the company, hence they no longer needed financial support and no longer wanted me around. They acknowledged the only reason they wanted me back was because they needed money help from my grandfather. Although I had known their actual motivations from the start, this disclosure had little effect on me. I'm really sure they believed this would damage my emotions. I neglected even responding to the message. They wrote me another message a few hours later, stating they were going to block me immediately because I was a disgusting human being, just like my sister had claimed. I guess this reality got under their skin. They tagged me as violent and unappreciative in addition to calling me terrible and merciless. Obviously violent since I had smacked my sister the other day, and it was not surprising that they disregarded the truth that she had initially attacked and pushed me to the ground. Better still, my sister must not have told them, hence they most likely did not know. They also branded me unappreciative since, despite all they had done for me, I still had the audacity to act as though they were negligent parents. They discussed how they had raised me, spent money on food, sent me to school, and clothed me. When parents bring up things like that while in a difficult situation, I truly find it perplexing. It doesn't make them unique. I consider it to be rather the minimum they could do for their children. But I suppose my parents believe the basic minimum is more than enough, hence I should treat them like my saviors for doing it. In any case, I wanted to reply but opted against it since it would waste time. I therefore blocked them first, and I was done before they could block me. My grandpa and I are living really nicely, and thus far most of the colleges I applied to have welcomed me. As promised, my grandpa will pay all of my costs. I am still waiting to hear from some of the better ones. We are still getting used to living together, and I do find myself feeling enraged at him sometimes for not removing me from my parents earlier. I am aware, though, that he had personal limitations and regrets not being able to support me when most needed. These days, we are working on it together. I never have to cope with my parents on my own evermore. Hopefully, they won't contact me either going forward. Update 4. Hi. I last updated 1 full year ago. I much appreciate the wonderful remarks and helpful DMs. Right now I am doing fantastic. My entire family, from what I know, has cut off my sister and dad. Although my mom's side of the family is still in contact with them, nobody from my dad's side speaks to them anymore because of my grandpa. Since I never discussed it, most people had no idea how I was being handled. However, as my grandfather began to tell others he was not in contact with my parents, they discovered the reason we experienced that fallout and my parents were ultimately shunned. It's karma, I suppose. I don't think anyone else could have caused this state of affairs except themselves. Although I don't know what my sister has been up to, I heard from a few people that she moved out and is now living alone last week. To be honest, that news motivated me to update all of you here. I am still going strong, as is my boyfriend. We get together on the weekends since I head home every weekend. My college is really near. I truly feel like a brand new person even though I have made many acquaintances here. Now closer than ever, my grandfather and I have also worked on our relationship. I doubt anything can ever change. He is my favorite person on earth. Though in the past he has made blunders, nevertheless, nobody else has. We have moved on from everything and I have forgiven him. Indeed, right now I am really content. I appreciate you folks.